All right. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to a Saturday morning, a little bit different Quantanium and conversation today. And we are absolutely going to be blessed today to be joined by Scarred Citizen. Saturday morning, a little bit different. So, Scarred, hey, yeah, I definitely did hear myself kind of.
Yeah, I got it. I got it.
Cool. Yeah, no problem. And we're just working out the kinks here. I don't do this type of content very often where I have the pleasure of having somebody on board. But anyway, Scart, welcome aboard. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, and I'm really excited about today. Let me kind of set the stage here. Now, Scart is, I'm going to kind of refer to him as Grift through a lot of the Grifter or Grift does a lot, through a lot of the podcasts today. And he, you know, started, kind of showing up on the stream now and then, and really had a really interesting take. A lot of the people who follow the stream, as you can imagine, are miners and are interested in mining and doing that kind of a thing. But Scarred is somebody who does more piracy in the game, and just began kind of speaking to just kind of some of the dynamics between industry and piracy in a really positive way. I think the first thing I want to say is I want to start with a couple of things because it's kind of a flood day. Hey, Astro, good morning. How are you? Nice to see you. Could you just at least tell us how to begin? How did you get started with Star Citizen? How long have you been playing?
I started back in, I think it was June 4th of 2022. And how my journey started is a friend of mine at work. He also plays. His name's Starlord X. If you've seen that Family Guy skit where the people are talking about their kids, and you got the guy Peter Griffin slapping the guy in the face with his pictures of kids, he was kind of doing the same thing with me, where he's every day, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at this, and I kept writing it off as, yeah, I heard of it before, kind of heard it was a scam, and he's like, oh no 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 no, it's real, it's real. And it wasn't until I watched a big long video that he sent me, and then I saw the name Chris Roberts attached to it. And I grew up a lot of my childhood playing Wing Commander, Wing
Nice,
Commander
yeah,
2, Wing
absolutely.
Commander 3. And as soon as he said that name, I was like, okay, I'm in. And I've been playing ever since.
Nice. So you said June 22, huh?
Yes, sir.
So not terribly long, maybe about 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, yeah. It's not been long, and my journey from box delivery to trying to board people's ships was pretty fast.
So and that's one of the things that's cool about Star Citizen that I've always thought was really fantastic about it is when you first kind of get into the game, you don't have to like level to 60 before you can participate in PvP or anything. Really it's more of a skill-based game. So hey, John, good morning. John, Dave, how are you doing this morning? Nice to see you. And so tell me a little bit. So right off the bat, it is has piracy kind of always been, or at least that type of thing, been kind of your jam in games like this?
No, as a matter of fact, how this really started is, please, nobody in chat take offense to this. I was what you would call a lot of pirates would call a typical Care Bear. I did not want to be bothered. I wanted to go do my PvE stuff. I wanted to hang out with my buddy Starlord and do our PvP stuff together, or PvE stuff together. Bunkers,
Sure.
bounty hunting, stuff like that. And it wasn't until one day we were on our way to a bunker. And if you guys don't know how bunkers work, if somebody is already in the bunker that you chose the mission for, the timer starts counting down. It'll say wave 1, and you'll see the once they've cleared out X amount of guys, the timer starts.
Right.
And we are on our way, and we're like, whoa, what is going on? Why is the timer counting down? we got there, we realized there was people in our bunker, and we tried to get them to leave, and they wouldn't leave. So it turned into a big firefight, and they kept coming back for more. And that's when me and they came back about 3, 4 times. And the last time they came back with more guys, and we downed them all, and we took their ship and got out of there. And we're like, you know what? We can do this. This is something we can do. And that kind of changed the whole dynamic of how we played the game.
That is cool. So kind of like there was an emergent moment that just kind of made kind of cemented the belief that you guys could pull it off.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like I said, we didn't want to be bothered. We were always playing against the AI, and I guess it just took a nudge from that group of guys to start sending bullets our way, and we figured out, hey, not only can we win, but we can take ships. Wow, this is cool. We didn't know we could really do this, and it kind of just snowballed from there.
Nice. I'd love to hear that story. So, and of course, one of the things that you guys should know is, and one of the things that we're going to discuss today is kind of the interaction, right, between industry and piracy, and how I do think it's very important. Myself, as somebody, and I kind of always jokingly refer to myself as kind of a sheep among wolves, but even though that I'm somebody who's definitely interested in industrial gameplay, I think piracy is an integral part of the verse. I think that it's very important. I think that there should be some risk versus reward. I don't want it to go too crazy or that type of thing, but we definitely, I think, are approaching with 3.18, and I don't know if you agree, Grift, or not, but I do think we're approaching kind of maybe a bit of a rebirth in piracy because of soft death, because of the cargo refactor and those types of things. We're definitely going to kind of see an uptick at the minimum in piracy. What are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot of people that, especially in the group that I hang around with, that definitely call this the piracy patch.
Yes.
I'm going to say the first few weeks to even maybe a couple of months, it's going to kind of be rough out there, and not just for industrial players, but for pirates as well. And the reason why I say this is a lot of the people that I watch, get my ideas from, and the people that we hang out, or that I hang out with on Star Citizen, we kind of have a little bit of a code. Right now, without soft death, I'm talking 3.17.5 and the previous patches, it was more extortion than it was actually getting on board ships. And the deal with that is, if somebody paid us, we left them alone. We didn't kill them. We didn't destroy their ship. If they said, hey, hold on a second, we'll pay you, whatever, we'd help them out. Now, if I came flying in and we blew up their ship before we got into negotiations, if they did pay us and they were being very cool about it, we would offer them a ride and get them to where they needed to go. We wouldn't just leave them there stranded. Now, I have a feeling, though, with 3.18, you're going to have single and two-man groups and bigger ones that are going to be very amateur about this, and they're not gonna play nice, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Yep, that makes perfect sense. And one of the reasons that that Grift and I find ourselves here is because, here on my channel, as everybody kind of knows, I do tons and tons of Quantanium mining, and really do approach the game from a completely industrial standpoint. And kind of speaking to what you were you talk about, Grift. I mean, same kind of gig for me. Like when I first started this game, all I wanted to do was kind of just log on, grab my prospector, and just go do my thing by myself or whatever. And slowly but surely, of course, realized how much funner the game is just if you have other people to interact with. Exponentially, so, and really then, started kind of working around different groups and different, meeting different people and really kind of getting lucky and meeting some really wonderful people and being able to kind of really just kind of put together a really nice industrial group of people and began, just kind of really doing a bunch of theory crafting and learning about the game and that type of thing. But, as
May I?
piracies, yeah,
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt.
please do.
What I wanted to say was, so early in my Star Citizen career, I unfortunately had to have a surgery, and I could not wear headphones or earbuds or anything like that for about 6 to 8 weeks. So, and me being primarily a guy that likes to run bunkers and bounty hunting, if you can't hear what's going on in the game, there's not much for you to do in the game. And I will say that is how I found your channel and became involved in your chats and the Discord community. Was I didn't know what to do, but I still love the game so much I needed to know. I was like, how do I play the game if I can't hear? Found your channel, and you taught me everything I needed to know about Quantanium mining, and I did that for the 6 to 8 weeks. I could not wear headphones.
That's awesome. And that, and so that's why we find ourselves here. Grift has been very kind with his time. He has always kind of gotten onto the channel and very open about the fact that he's a pirate, very open about the fact that he, really does, kind of focus on that kind of gameplay. But also, one of the things that was kind of impressive, and one of the things that we're going to be speaking about a lot is Griff joined kind of the, the Explorers League community. As you know, we have a community. It used to be kind of more of, organized organization where we had regular organization nights and that type of thing. Our leadership kind of team, and especially myself, have been real busy in life, just kind of life, doing life things, throwing curveballs and that type of thing. So we've been a little bit more of a community. But Grift has come on many times, and where a lot of people come on my channel and they ask questions about like mining, what mining head should I use, or how do you make the cursors yellow, the icons yellow, or little things like that. Grift has always been kind of looking when people ask questions about kind of combat related things, or those types of things. He's always been willing to contribute, and he really made, I believe it was in November, a really awesome list of kind of how to avoid being a soft target. Some of the things that industrial, because at the end of the day, piracy is going to be a part of this game, and as industrial players, we are going to need to learn how to adapt. I mean, we're going to have to learn how to not be soft targets, and if we catch ourselves in a situation where we are being a soft target, there are some things that we can also do to kind of prepare ourselves, to kind of prevent shipboarding, making sure we have the proper equipment and those types of things. And so he made this fantastic list, which is kind of, one of the things that, we're going to use as kind of a backdrop for our conversation today. And so first of all, I just want to say thank you for contributing to my community, number one, in that context. But also, I think that there's lots of times when us industrial types kind of maybe aren't as open to just speaking directly to the pirate groups, and just kind of making sure that we understand there is some common ground there.
So the reason why I made that list was I'm not saying anybody in particular, but there was a lot of people when Soft Death, the Cargo Refactor, and all of that came out. I saw a lot of people panic and think that it was going to be an unfair advantage towards the pirates. And I just wanted I wanted to try to calm the nerves of everybody and make sure that there are many ways that you can make yourself a less a harder target to hit.
Absolutely.
It won't be a bloodbath if you just a few simple things that you can do, and you're gonna, I don't want to say be left alone, but people are not gonna look at you and go, oh hey, I need to go get that guy right now.
And that's really just speaking to that directly, is I actually got swept up in that a little bit. When they talked about master modes and they've talked about, the cargo refactor being what it is, and then they put in soft death, and quite honestly, even with the latest version of the what is the X-wing now that's got the Atari
Scorpius
Antares.
Antares.
Yeah, like even with that, right? So hey, I just want to Jazzy, good morning, by the way. Mass, good morning. Crystal, how are you? Awesome, nice to see you. Otzer says, hey, a lot of pirate groups are pretty vocal on how to avoid them. Being a proper pirate's hard work and requires... Yeah, that's a very much true, Otzer. I think all of us who are on the industrial side, if you do take some time to look at what pirates have had to go through, it's a very meticulous planning. There's a lot that goes into it. They're not always just kind of these, random dudes who are out there just kind of, just being griefers. It's not like that at all in most cases, especially with the more professional organizations. So... But yeah, I mean, kind of, so that's why we find ourselves here, is we wanted to talk today about kind of this big, there's a kind of a great conjunction that's going to happen here in 318. We're going to have the soft death. We're going to have the cargo refactor, and we're still going to have industrial gameplay, and we've got to find a way as a group to kind of to coalesce, to coexist. And also, but like what Grift is saying is there are things that we can actively do. He's coming from a pirate standpoint. There are things that we can actively do to make ourselves a little bit more difficult, a little, where we're not necessarily the easiest target. I mean, look, if I'm a pirate out in the verse and I see a hull A, I'm going to approach that hull A a certain way. If I see a constellation Andromeda, I'm going to approach that ship much differently. But it goes beyond just that little stuff. I mean, it begins with kind of, as an industrial player, taking responsibility for not just logging on and kind of not paying attention and then just kind of just kind of wandering around aimlessly, doing what you normally do with little. You're not going to be able to just not be prepared. You're going to have to take some time.
I find it like the equivalent, like the in-world or real-world equivalent is, if you park your car in a bad neighborhood, you're not going to leave your laptop and your lady's purse sitting out on the front seat. You're gonna make sure the windows are rolled up, the doors are locked, and the laptop's under the seat, the purse is in the trunk, or whatever you do. You take certain precautions to make sure nobody's going to break into your car. Make sure you take into certain precautions to make sure you're not get as easy of a target.
I couldn't agree more. A couple of things I will mention, you guys. The servers are incredibly unstable. I've had 4 or 5 30Ks in like an hour as I was kind of prepping for our stream today. So what you see on screen is just monkeying around while Grift and I chat about this stuff. I'm actually going to try and grab a Core A, and I'm going to try to head over to Daymar and go to the Sand Cave. But it might 30K like 20 times. That doesn't matter. What you're seeing on screen is just kind of something to pass the time as Grift and I talk. So kind of circling back to that. So, some of the there's different aspects of this situation, and part of it is kind of when you first log on to a server, kind of making yourself kind of alert to what's happening in your area, and then kind of doing some pre-flight stuff. Then there's also after you're, maybe even before you take off, thinking about the types of gear and that type of stuff, understanding your routes and that type of thing as well. So there's actually an enormous amount to it. And we're going to do our best to kind of talk about the individual pieces. But, let me just start by, by saying, when I'm an industrial-based player, when I log in, I very easily could just log on to, say, a refinery. The first thing I do, click F12, shut down global chat, and just kind of aimlessly go and pull my prospector and then just go out to the Halo and come back, and could never even don't even pay attention to what's happening kind of locally. And I think I think that part of it has kind of come to an end. I think we're definitely going to need to. I mean, if I do that and I end up being pirated or I ended up losing things, that's kind of on me. I think at that point.
Yeah.
Welcome to the
I very highly recommend you do not hit F12, at least not for a few minutes. Not until you're. If you're a Halo miner, I wouldn't close down F12 until you're approaching the Halo these days. The global chat is going to be an enormous help. It kind of lets you know what a majority of the server is doing. If people are getting hit by pirates or people are camping out around, I don't know, say Banji Point and just shooting people down as soon as they leave, people in chat are going to let you know about it. They're going to say something. I find that very useful to just, I mean, there's a lot of times where I may not be pirating, but I want to get into a good scrap. There's a lot of times I just sit there and I watch global chat and I wait for somebody to say something. Oh, there's somebody hanging out over at this station shooting people down. And I'll go grab my ship and head over there and see if I can't get myself into a good firefight. I would also add on, when you're in space stations, make sure nobody is following you, especially ships that have the very large back doors. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten free rides from people and they had no idea I was even in there.
You know, it's a very, very important part of pre-flight, I think, and not one that I've certainly not one that I have done a great job of, but it's something that you mentioned. And so what we're talking about is when you first log on, leaving your global chat open, because that can inform you, like what Grifter's saying. It can inform you what's happening on the server, and many times it will, especially if people are salty about something happening. They're going to say, hey, this has happened or that's happening. It is a piece of of intelligence gathering tool. And of course it's going to have all of your traditional stuff, but don't just kind of pay attention to that. It's a good thing. Second of all, as you're kind of planning, what you're going to do, it's not a bad idea. And it's I kind of chuckled when you do head out to your ship eventually. It's a good idea to keep an eye. I mean, and I think older Star Citizen players probably do this a little more. I'm always really cognizant if somebody's kind of following me or jumps. If anybody jumps in an elevator with me, I leave the elevator. I do not go to my hangar with them in the elevator. That type of thing. Kind of keeping your head on a swivel. Also, when I am just as guilty as anybody. When you get into your hangar, just if you mindlessly run out and open up you very easily can miss the fact that there's somebody who's gotten aboard your ship. So doing sometimes kind of closing up all the hatches and doing a bit of just double checking that there's no one hanging out on your ship is probably not a bad idea.
For sure. Do you want me to keep going down that little part right there?
Please do.
Okay. Let's see. While you're in the stations, another thing that's something that you can. It's going to be a little bit harder with 318 because of soft death. I think a lot of people are going to be going out geared. But if you see a lot of guys in one area in beacon suits running around, if you kind of happen to take a look over their shoulder when they're at the ASOP, there's a good chance that there's a dogfight going on somewhere. I'm not saying that's like that every single time, but you see, like, you're at Everest Harbor and you see 5, 6, 7 guys all in beacon suits huddled around ASOP terminals. There's more than likely a fight going on near the station. Whoa there, V. I'm seeing you get jostled around a little bit.
You know what I did is I forgot I was in the core, and I hit landing gear and went into this mode. And of course, my bottom was dragging on the ground. It's just kind of me mindlessly listening to what you're saying. So
I'm guilty of that too. Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Another thing I would do is if there's quite a few things you can do in a station before you even leave. That's going to give you a pretty good. It's almost like taking a temperature of the area that you're at in the server. You can, right when you log in and you exit your hab and you get down to where the hangars are.
Yep.
You'll be able to hear if the station's firing on people, and that's another really good indicator as to there's somebody out there with either a crime stat or somebody's out there shooting people down as soon as they leave their hangar. So keep an ear out for that. Um, as I said, keep an eye out on what people are wearing. As I said, it's going to be a little bit more difficult in 318. There's going to be a lot of people leaving fully geared. But traditionally, the way I looked at it is if people were leaving in heavy armor with, grenade launchers and LMGs and stuff like that, they're more than likely going to be heading out to do bunkers. And then if you see guys wearing, I don't want to say beacon suits, but traditional flight suit or like just flight suits and a helmet, they're probably going out there to look for either a bounty hunting mission or they're out there to look for a scrap right outside of the station. So just keep your eyes out for that. Back to no one following you. There's a lot of times people will sneak up behind you and take a look at what you have in your fleet. And then they'll just chase after you. So just make sure nobody jumps in the same elevator with you. Listen for extra footsteps when you're running to your hangar. I know sometimes Star Citizen likes to, like for example, you'll be in your core or your Avenger Titan, and sometimes they'll throw you in. I think it's hangar 7, 8, and 9 at Everest Harbor is the big boy hangar, and just listen for those extra footsteps behind you. Make sure they're not following you. If you're really paranoid about it, once you've sat in your seat, you can open up ship comms and it'll show you if somebody's in there. So if you're really paranoid or you think somebody may have followed you on there, open up your ship comms. It'll show you if there's an extra person in there or somebody that's not supposed to be in there. And then lastly, while you're at any stations that have any of the commodity things, what a lot of pirates will do is they'll have scouts all throughout areas where you can pick up or sell things. And they will be looking at what you're buying and or what you're selling. Just make sure nobody's hanging out around you, because that's more than likely what they're doing is they're watching to see what you're buying. Can you excuse me just for one moment, sir?
No
Just
problem.
1 second.
Yeah, no, please take your time. So yeah, I mean,
Second.
what we're talking about is, just kind of, this theory crafting is a little bit about how not to be a soft target. So we talked about when you first log on, not necessarily turning off the global chat, listening at the station, because there are many times when you can hear if there's things happening outside the station, you can hear the guns firing on people. You can actually kind of take a look and see, is it a busy station? Are there people kind of looking over your shoulder? Maybe not necessarily, look at, if there's it seems like there's a lot of people there, maybe looking over another dude's shoulder and kind of seeing what kind of he's pulling. If you see 3 guys pulling Buccaneers or something, that might give you an indicator that there's something kind of happening. And just kind of being, very wary and cautious, like when you head to your elevator, make sure no one's in there, make sure no one's following you into your ship. Little things like that. These are some of the some pre-flight mechanics, things that you can do. That can kind
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. That can kind of keep you, these are the beginning pieces of theory that kind of keep you from becoming a soft target. And, and really it kind of wraps one of the most important things, and it really is on us, and it really is it's inherent on industrial players. Even though you're an industrial player, you should absolutely, as a Star Citizen, you really want to take some time to understand ballistics. You want to take some time. You do want to take some time and learn how to shoot your handguns and your rifles. You do want to make sure that you are familiar with optics, and those types of things, and those gun, so we're going to begin talking a little bit, as this kind of winds around a little bit, how it's important to have the proper gear with you as well in order to say potentially, if you end up in soft death, having the things that you need in order to kind of maybe fight something off or hold out a little longer. So, making sure that you have, I have kind of three things that I almost always have with me. I always have a sidearm. I always have ammo. I always have a med gun. I always have a tractor beam. Those are the minimum things that you can have. Med pens, I always have. Those things right off the bat are not optional. Like, you really need those. You need to have armor. It's not a bad idea. Now, at some point, the mechanics are going to change where you've got to have like a flight suit or medium armor or heavy armor. You're not going to be able to wear heavy armor and also be in, say, the cockpit. But for now, you should have some armor on. Medium is I think a good balance. I think you spoke to that. You're like, hey, it's the best of both worlds. You've got speed and protection with it. Having a gun that you're familiar with, even a sidearm, but some kind of a good, like a P4 or a P8 or, maybe even an FS9 or something like that. Have a gun, have a sidearm, have a rifle, have those things that you're familiar with, have some optics, and also do spend a little time shooting those guns, even as an industrial player, because you may have a situation where if somebody's soft, if somebody has soft death to your ship when they're coming on board, that doesn't necessarily mean all is lost. You can, depending on what strength they're coming on board, you may be able to kind of either slow them down or stop them entirely.
Sure, for sure. I'm going to also speak from the pirate perspective. A lot of us pirates, we are looking for a challenge. We don't want to just enter a ship, take your stuff, and leave. A lot of the, or particularly with 3.17.5 and before, it's really disappointing to, I hate saying it like this, but to put in all that work and prep and getting everybody together, and you find a nice juicy target and you're about to start your op, and then all of a sudden Alt F4 or a bed log. I've seen it in your chat as well as many other chats across YouTube. People are like, well, I'm going to set the self-destruct and then I'm going to meet you guys halfway in the ship and good luck getting past me. And you know what I say? This is exactly what we've been waiting for. I want this. I want a firefight and to be pressed to run up to the cockpit to hit that self-destruct button so we don't all die in there. That's the kind of gameplay I've been looking forward to. Make sure you're, and to speak on that, make sure you're familiar with how EVA works. EVA right now is not in the best of spots, particularly, but make sure you know how it works. Make sure you know how to move around. Make sure you know how to move around your ship, because EVA gunfights, they're gonna happen.
Yes.
Several pirate orgs have already said, now that soft death is a thing, a lot of them are going to be running what they call the red flag. They are not going to negotiate with you. They're not going to open up comms and say, hey, give us 100K and we go away. A lot of them are just going to either shut your ship down or they're going to soft death you and come on board. So if you put up a fight, a good fight, they're not going to want to hang around too long. They're going to cut their losses and leave. So yeah, make sure, like V said, you have some decent armor. I prefer medium because, like I said, I think it's the best of both worlds. You get to move quick. It offers a decent amount of protection. I'm a huge fan of the P4 and the P8 in close quarters. I love those guns. I think they're my favorite. They got good reload time, so if you do dump a mag in somebody, you're not waiting around for 2.5 seconds like the LMGs to drop the box, put a new box on, put the belt in,
right,
rack it, and get ready to go. It's just drop the mag, slam in a new one, rack it, and you're ready to go. So if you can get a good optic, like V said, make sure you grab a good optic, ×1, ×2. You don't need anything crazy inside of a ship. If you really want to get scary, firing off some grenades or even a railgun inside your ship is going to make people think twice about coming in there.
Yeah, one thing I want to say is, you know, not being a soft target, you know, you may lose the battle, but you actually may put up enough of a fight where, you know, if you do take some time and acclimate yourself with grenades or rail guns, or you use the boxes, you know, if you happen to have, if you're a cargo delivery, you use the boxes and build yourself kind of a nest, and you fight hard. If you become not an easy target, then it may even be, it may not necessarily pay dividends that first time they may get you, but they may realize the next time they come, it's like, oh man, the last time we had to fight this guy, it took 20 minutes. You know, it took a half hour to get this guy out, you know, and there was, you know, 2 of us that died, and, you know, let's just go out, let's look for someone else. I mean, this guy's a little, you know, this is a little much or whatever. You know, so you may not necessarily win the day that day, but you also are creating a reputation as somebody who's not necessarily going to just, you know, roll over and die. You know, you're going to be somebody who's going to, you know, put up a fight, you know, who's going to take, you know, time and energy, you know, and that type of thing. So, one thing I want to say.
Brought up the boxes. I wanted to hit on the boxes real quick.
Yeah,
so
go right ahead.
We did a little testing with the boxes, especially RMC boxes. That's the salvage boxes, right? The RMC. Yeah. If you hit somebody with one of those, with a tractor beam, they're going to start bleeding out. If you hit them and then smash them into the ground and drag them across the deck of your ship, it's going to kill them. It will kill them. It will incap them. So even if you're totally unarmed and they're coming in, if you can grab an RMC box or a cargo box and whap them with it, they're not going to have a good day. They have to, at the very minimum, drop their gun to use a med pen. So now that's one guy that's not shooting at you.
Yep.
If you can get a couple of them, that's even more guys that have to put their guns away to bring out a med pen, and that gives you the advantage. You can even use cargo boxes or 2 SCU cargo boxes. You can block any doorways leading up to the cockpit. And once again, in order for them to move it, one of them has to put their gun away to use a tractor beam. So that's one less gun pointed your direction.
Absolutely. You know, and these are, you know, cumulatively, right? It's you're beginning to reduce your footprint as somebody who's an easy target. You know, like if you log on and you're checking comms, if you log on and you're kind of seeing what's going on in your local area, if you've got your ear to the track about what's happening on the server, if you're prepared, you've got your armor, you've got your guns, you've got your optics, you've got your med guns, you've got your med pens, you've got your tractor beam, you've got a plan, you've gone up to your ship, you've made sure that no one followed you in there. You know, you're presetting your jump points, right? These are all things that are on Griff's list. Griff made this awesome list in our community about, you know, how to not be a soft target, you know. So before the hangar doors open, presetting your, you know, where you're going to jump, making sure that your shields are full before you open that door. You know, that's a big
deal.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've watched new and veteran players pop open a door and they have no shields on.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that will take advantage, especially with soft death. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to take advantage of that. One thing I've been seeing on the boards is people that are willing to take that crime stat and hit people around stations and other areas just so that their buddy who has no crime stat in a vulture or their buddies in a reclaimer can come through and just scrape your stuff and move on. They're willing to take that crime stat just so that their group can make some money.
Right. You know, that's that's an excellent point.
And as V was saying, once your shields and everything are up and you've hit the call hangar doors, I catch myself, especially if there's a fight going on outside, even though if I'm one always looking for a fight. There are days I don't want to get involved in a fight. I'm trying to do something else. I will have my quantum spooled up and ready to go. So as soon as I pop out of those doors, I just got to align, get my calibration, and I'm hitting the button and I'm out. Um, and those guys are eating my space dust because, like I said, not just because I pirate doesn't mean I always want to get involved in a fight. There's other things to do in the game, you know. So
Sure.
so there's a lot of times, like I said, I'll hear a fight and I'm like, oh man, how am I going to get through this? Make sure my shields are up, get my quantum spooled up. I've already picked my point, and as soon as the doors are open, I'm gassing it out of there, getting lined up, and boom, I'm out.
And I think it's another very important little tip or trick, kind of have a plan, know what you're doing. And if you're going to be a single player, if you're, depending on how, you know, important it is. I mean, you certainly could always just jump in before you go out. You could always jump into some kind of a scout ship first and kind of head out and just check the temperature around you. You don't always have to do that, but there are, I mean, that's going to pay, some dividends as well. So, hey, Nate, how you doing? Digital, Doe, Mass, George, all you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We are just talking about, I've got Grift along, Scarred Citizen, and we are just talking about kind of the coexistence of piracy and industry, and how not to become a soft, really one of the main themes today is some of the things that we can do as industrial players to not necessarily be an easy target. So we've talked about kind of pre-spooling our quantum drive. One of the other things that we can do is not just lazily jump from ARC-L1 to our ArcCorp. Let's say I've done Quantanium mining all week and I've got 163 SCU of Quantanium that I am ready to haul in. It is now refined, and I throw that into my constellation Taurus. If I just kind of, it's cargo run day, and I just kind of blindly log into the server, go fill my thing up. I turn off, global chat. I don't pay attention, and then I just kind of lazily just straight jump right from ARC-L1 to ArcCorp. There's probably a fairly decent chance in the first few weeks of 318 that I'm going to be pulled out of quantum, especially now that there's the Antares, right? Because people are going to be all about trying to pull you out and lock you down. The Manus was one beast. The Antares is going to be a different beast altogether for that.
Space, do you know all the ins and outs of the Antares?
I don't know all the ins and outs of the Antares besides it seemed to me like what I had read is that not only would it have a quantum interdiction device, it would also be able to it has like an EMP. I believe it. It's kind of both things at once.
So here's the deal on that. A lot of people. So this goes for real life as well, gentlemen and ladies, if there's any ladies out there. How I view everything is when I hear news hit the print, hit the internet, hit the TV, I don't take it at face value immediately. I give it 2, 3, 4. Oh, and thank you, Nate, by the way. I take 2, 3, 4, even a week before I really dive into those stories, and it's because people get up on the hype train and they don't follow up the facts.
Well, and even more than that, it's like you can actually catch a wave if you join the hype train and put a thumbnail that's really kind of this is going to blow everything up. Those are going to get clicks, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yes, you're absolutely right. There's a way, and I just want to say this last thing before you. I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think in life, as well as Star Citizen and all those places, it's good when news comes out, not necessarily be the first guy online talking about it, because chances are facts are going to change. So you're right to take some time. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
And Star Citizen, we all know anything can change in a patch or a hot fix. It can all change in a week, a month, a year, or even in 2 hours. So here's the deal, if anybody doesn't know on the Antares, what that's all capable of. So from what I've read and what I've gathered from CIG and other people that are in the know, it will have 4 size 3 hard points that the pilot controls. But here's where it gets interesting. A lot of people thought it was going to be a single seater and everybody and the pilot can control the EMP and the quantum interdiction device and all of that. It's not true. There's a second seat. It loses its turret. The co-pilot will be operating the EMP and the quantum interdiction device and the missiles. So the pilot will only have access to the guns. The co-pilot will have access to all the fun new toys. So it's not going to be the death of the Manus. It's not going to be the death of the Cuddy Blue. As a matter of fact, I think people are going to pledge for this ship, get in it, and then realize it's not what they thought it was. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Right.
No, I think, look, I think that's and this is and we won't spend a whole lot of time going down this rabbit hole, but I do think that there's an element of, flavor of the month. There's definitely an element. I mean, we've seen this time and time again with Star Citizen, where, like, for instance, I mean, the most egregious example comes to my mind is like the Ion, where they, when there was the other variant too. One of them was a ballistics variant, and one of them is the
Inferno.
The Inferno, and they could just one shot things when they first came. Like one shot light fighters left and right. When they first came on board, and that's kind of how they sold the thing, is having these huge, big guns to do that kind of stuff. But eventually they got kind of tweaked, and of course that definitely doing. Different people have different opinions on that, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But definitely, it sounds to me like what you're saying with the Antares is they're doing that. They're promoting the multi-crew gameplay in in more of a combat type situation, and it's gonna take some pretty healthy coordination between the pilot and the co-pilot in order to land an EMP. It's gonna take some good coordination. That type of thing. Now, it is a very capable craft, and we'll have to see. I mean, Star Citizen players being what they will, I'm sure we'll learn how to maximize the capability of that. But it's not necessarily the end of the world. And I myself even have been a little guilty sometimes of being swept away in kind of the minutia, of a change or whatever before we actually see how it comes to pass. And I don't necessarily always think that's a healthy thing to do. And, that being said, I'm certainly incredibly guilty of it myself from time to time, and I think that
I'm also, as much as I throw that advice out there, I'm guilty of not taking my own advice sometimes. I really am, because there's times where I get excited for things in life or even things in this game, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like this, and then 3 weeks later the patch drops and I'm like, oh, it's not like that.
Right. And it's happened many times that way. I mean, I think that we see that a lot. So it'll be interesting. So, kind of circling back, so we've talked about now kind of zig. So, as you go to quantum, don't necessarily just straight quantum, you don't have to do an ARC L1 to ArcCorp. Maybe, if we're taking a look at this, maybe going, taken from ArcCorp and headed towards ARC L5 first, or heading from ArcCorp and heading to Mike L5 first, and then, maybe taking about 30, 40 seconds and then turning and going back towards ArcCorp. More of a zigzag route. So you're not on the standard shipping lane route where a lot of people are setting up your quantum interdiction. That definitely can lead towards, in a good way, towards, potentially giving you an option of not necessarily being pulled out.
Correct. And you have your map pulled up. I don't know how far behind the stream is, but I saw you had your map pulled out.
Yeah, I did.
There's a few places that are not traveled to often. Places like CRUL5, HURL5, even ARC L2.
Right.
There's a lot of people that just don't go there. You can. I'm not saying don't zigzag. I'm just saying sometimes finding that off-beaten station and setting up your home there or doing your refining there might be more advantageous than going to all the hotspots like CRUL1, ARC L1, what is it, Mike L1 up in Microtech. Is that the one that's closest up there to Microtech?
Yeah, Mike L1. All of your L1 stations are really going to be the ones that have the refineries in them.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely, you're not wrong in the fact that you don't necessarily have to if certainly if somebody's casing you, or yeah, I don't know if that's the right term, if somebody's keeping an eye on you, like if some like let's say somebody's trying to, piracy doesn't always happen like in an audible situation where they just catch you. Sometimes they watch what you're up to, and if you're just kind of, oh yeah, every day he leaves ARC-L1. He gets out of work around 5:30, 6 o'clock at night. I notice he logs on, and he always flies out of ARC-L1, and sometime a half hour, 45 minutes later, he comes back. If
lot of,
if you
go ahead.
if yeah, I'm just saying, if you have a regular routine, regular routine is going to be one of those things where you might pick up a friend, who's interested in what you're doing, just based on the fact that you're predictable.
A lot of how these pirate ops start is they have somebody on a station near a commodity post or down on the ground in a mining area on one of the mining pads near the commodity posts, or basically anywhere you can buy and sell your tradable goods. And they're going to be watching and looking. And they generally will have a secondary party floating around the station, and they're going to be scanning you as you leave. So, and you may not see them. They might be hanging out in, like, say, a Saber with the weapons and shields off, or they could be sitting in an Eclipse with the weapons and the shields off, or even something else that's small with the weapons and the shields off, so you're not picking them up, but they see you. And they're going to scan you, and they're going to let their buddies know, hey, he's heading in this general direction. This is what he's got on him. Be on the lookout. And they're gonna add your name to the list of people they're going to be watching for heading into ArcCorp or into Crusader or Microtech or wherever it is you may be. That's how a lot of these ops start. Most of the time, it's not a random hit. They've been watching you for a while.
And part of that is because it does take a lot of coordination to do it right.
It does.
You can't just always show up and you're in a perfect spot to hit somebody, or they just happen. You have, like, as crazy as it is, the Stanton system, it is actually enormous. I mean, considering like how big your character model is, how big your ship model is, the Stanton system's actually huge. And the chances of somebody just setting up a random net somewhere in the Stanton system and you just happen to guppy your way into that thing is very low. I mean, now don't get me wrong. If, like I said, if you just kind of lazily, jump from ARC-L1 to ArcCorp or whatever with with a load of freshly refined Quantanium, you might get picked off. But if you're doing it, if you're really trying not to get caught, if you're really kind of going out of your way, it's much more difficult for people to kind of get you.
For sure. Yeah. It's just basically like keeping your head on a swivel. That's all. Just pay attention to what's going on around you, what's going on in chat. If there's a big pirate org out there, chat is going to let you know. They will let you know. They will let you know where they've been hit. And that also goes to you. I don't want to say it's your responsibility, but if you're getting hit and you're not going to get away, or you may possibly die, or whatever the situation may be, throw that up in chat. Hey, I was at ARC-L1 just leaving the station and I got hit, or I was at this area and this is where I got hit. Throw that up in chat for other people to see, and who knows, you might even get lucky enough that there's a pirate hunting group and they just might be a 2-minute jump away from you. Throw that up in chat. Hey, I'm getting pirated. I'm at this spot, and who knows? Maybe 10 guys show up looking for a fight to get rid of some pirates. Because as much as there are pirates out there, there are other orgs and groups of people that want to hunt pirates. So, throw that up in chat. I'm not saying they're going to save you, but it might help.
Well, and that's, yeah, I mean, there comes a point, especially if you've been soft death and you're kind of holding out on your ship. And I mean, of course, different ships are going to be in different situations, right? But I mean, if you're in a prospector versus a C2 or something, it's a little bit different animal. But, if you're trying to give yourself an opportunity, I think I think you're absolutely right. Not only, you might have some discords that you're a part of. You might also take some time to acclimate yourself with anti-pirate groups. You know what I mean? Jump on one of their discords and just have it available to you. Also, the global chat within the game, that type of thing is, those are things that you can, beacons that you can send out, that type of thing that can get you in a situation where potentially maybe some help is on the way. You really don't know, like, if one or two people show up, sometimes it can really kind of slow everything down. If they've got to kind of, like, let's say some of the pirates have left their ships and they're going to board you, but then all of a sudden, they have one guy who's just kind of flying around and keeping an eye on things, but then all of a sudden, like, a couple more ships come out of Quantum and, where you're at or whatever. You don't know how much, and eventually we also do know that you're going to be able to recover ships from soft. I don't want to speak too much on that, on things that are coming, but eventually you're going to be able to potentially, fix those ships and fly out of there again. So learning, this is why this conversation I think is such a good one, and why I'm so happy that Griff decided to join me today, and why I think this pays such important dividends, because I do think that we have a tendency as industrial players sometimes to really look down on piracy, and sometimes maybe just say, these guys are they want to grief, and part of it comes from the fact that piracy always requires a victim. It's one of those things. It's just that type of a game loop, but you don't have to be all. This isn't the type of game where there's just no wiggle room, where you're always, every single time you log onto the game, you're going to be pirate. It doesn't have to be that way, at all.
I started keeping a list. Me, Star-Lord, and a couple other guys, we started keeping lists. And for as much as we hit people, now, we haven't done much pirating or ground pirating or any of that sort of thing in about a month, just because of the way 317.5 has been and the PTU has been. It really hasn't been worth it, in our opinion. Our stuff is constantly, as we just saw here, you're getting constant 30Ks in the PTU. The PTU is constantly getting some sort of update or reset. So we're constantly having to re-gear our ships, rearm ourselves. And it just really hasn't been fun. But prior to that, we were keeping a list, and I'd say that list went for 2 months, every day for about 2 to 4 hours a day, where we were doing pirating. We have never hit the same person twice.
Yeah.
It's nearly impossible to hit the same person twice. We've never run across the same person twice. And if we do find somebody that's on our list, if we hit them a few days beforehand, now this also goes to being, like I said, we kind of view ourselves like, if you guys are familiar with the show Firefly, we kind of consider ourselves kind of like the crew of Serenity. We may be bad guys, but we have a code. And if we hit you a few days ago and we see you leaving a station and we know you got goods on you, we're more than likely going to leave you alone. I don't want to put you through that again. It's not fair. I look at it this way. Is it fair? I could go after you. Oh, yeah, we certainly could go after you. But then that opens us up for people to start calling us out as griefers or murder hobos. I hear a lot people call us.
Yeah. For that one.
I don't want to be labeled as such. If I'm going to pirate somebody, I like to have a little bit of that, like a little bit of honor behind those skull and crossbones that we fly. Are we doing it for money and for gameplay? Yeah, we are. But I don't want to make somebody a constant victim, because that's no fun for anybody else either. You just got your load of Quantanium. We hit you, we made you pay out 200K. We let you go, and then the very next day, we're hitting you again and asking for another 200K. It's not fun. It's not fun for the victim, and it's not fun for us, because we already know what you're going to do for the most part. So we try not to do that. It's only happened a couple of times where we're like, oh, hey, this is Jim Joe, Jim Bob from the other day that we hit. Let's leave him be. It's only happened like maybe twice or three
Right.
times where we're like, oh, hey, that's the same guy from the other day. But
Well, and part of it,
it's
look, I mean, I want to state that when I first started playing, and I talked about being kind of just my own guy, doing my own thing, and you did too, right? And I had this attitude kind of early on, like, screw pirates. If they attack me, I'm just gonna ram them, or if they're gonna, And I started thinking about it one day. It's like, well, you know what? Well, the one time I got pirated, I did the first time I got pirated, I did that. I actually just rammed the guy, and I ended up blowing up. He didn't. I actually ended up with a crime stat. He did, and I was just like, really, this is horrible, like, but the thing is I started thinking about it. It's like all he was asking for was $50,000. He had stopped me and said, hey, I think there was a group of them. They're like, hey, you pay us 50 grand and you can go. And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna reward piracy. I'm not gonna. That being said, I started thinking about it later. It's like, I had 750,000 worth of Quantanium on board that I lost. Why didn't I just give the guy 50K and just go on? Yeah, it sucks. It's the cost of doing business, but thanks for the lesson in teaching me that I probably could have had, done a better job, been a better pilot, been more prepared, maybe didn't take that route, didn't be so lazy. Those are opportunities for me to make better decisions, and not necessarily. Now, you listen. If somebody's making a concerted enough effort to pirate you, they're gonna. But That's why we're here today, to talk about the little things that you can do to make yourself just not as easy as the next guy. And at the end of the day, pirates are looking for anything. It's the fastest, quickest way to the buck. And if you don't make it easy on them, they're going to go on to the next guy.
You can also ask for people to escort you. There's a lot of people that are willing to escort.
Could not
There's
agree
a
with
lot
more
of
with that.
people
I agree 100%.
that are willing to escort, or hey, I need a turret gunner. Look, I don't know how your chat feels, but I think one of the best smaller cargo vessels out there is the Freelance Max. But when you're in a Freelance Max and you're hanging out around known Quantanium pickups, it just screams, "Come hit me!"
Absolutely.
If you can afford it, get yourself an escort or get yourself that turret gunner. And even more so, if you can afford even more, grab yourself a Connie Andromeda.
Yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, if I see a Connie Andromeda leaving, say, ARC-L1 or CRU-L1, and I scan it, and it says, ooh, it's got a big load of juicy Quantanium on there, and then I see there's a pilot, a co-pilot, and 2 turret gunners, I'm going to think very carefully about my next move. Doesn't matter how good those turret gunners are or that pilot is. I know I'm going to be in one heck of a fight to get that thing to stop.
I could not agree more with that. It's something that I've thought about and talked about a little bit on my channel as well. As ship selection is going to be very important. I do think Hull A, Freelancer Max, Argo Raft, those machines, if I was in a pirate type thing, or even if I'm flying those, I understand that those are for a high security type situation. I mean, you don't want to be flying a Hull A that does not have any combat capability. A Freelancer Max has a little bit of teeth, but not much. An Andromeda is going to have, potentially kitted out Andromeda as 2 size 5s, 2 size 4s, an enormous missile complement, some very capable turrets, potentially a snub. It's a hard target. It's also got a lot of hull HP. It's got a big shield generator.
Speaking of that, I know I'm getting a little sidetracked with this, but I really wanted to talk about this right quick. If you do get pulled out of Quantum, or you're leaving a Lagrange point, and somebody puts on their QED dampener, if you have a ship that has missiles on it, those ships that have EMPs, quantum interdictions, and now in 318, we've done some testing, distortions, that raises your IR and your EM off the chart. And it, once again, I know it can be patched at any time. EM missiles are locking on and staying locked on for longer periods of time. Now you throw in, like I said, distortion weapons, an EMP that's turned on, or a QED that's turned on. It may as well just be a giant magnet for missiles. And I think it's the Cuddy Blue. I think I tested it out. It was 10 direct size 1 missile hits. It's toast. It's gone. A Mantis, I think it was somewhere between 6 and 8 missiles. These are all just size 1s. You hit that thing with, I think, like I said, it's 8 to 10 missiles. It's toast. It's gone. It's not flying around anymore. Ships like the Hawk, and a lot of people are going to be running them full distortions with EMP.
Right.
That thing is going to have an EM signature that's, I think we recorded it at somewhere between 36K, 40K. It's a missile magnet. So if you can get a lock and you can fire 4 missiles at it, he's going to have to dump dozens of flares just to shake them off. Dozens of flares. And just a couple of missile barrages, he's all out of flares. And he's probably not going to want to stay in that fight.
What Grift is saying is that you can exhaust somebody's countermeasures.
Mhm.
You know, you can exhaust their countermeasures with certain ships. And so,
Yeah.
you know, that's an important thing to understand is, you know, ship selection is going to be super important, especially when it comes to, say, cargo running. And I definitely 100% agree when 318 goes live. 100% agree that the Constellation Andromeda is going to be a far greater, a far safer ship than the Freelancer Max. Just point blank. It just gets approached entirely differently.
Anything that's got a couple of turrets on it and a decent amount of cargo space, people are not going to want to screw around with that thing. If you're a rock miner, I'm going to refer to Star Streams.
Mm-hmm.
Me and my group the other day, me and Starlord in particular, we sat down at work and we actually created a list, and I didn't know it was going to turn into this, but we actually created a list of rarest ships we've seen in the wild, meaning we know they exist, but how many times have you actually come across it in
Kind
the
of
big
fun.
wide
Yeah,
world?
that's cool. I like it.
Vehicle selected.
One of them is the Valkyrie. Nobody ever flies a Valkyrie. I'm not 100% sure on what its cargo space is, but I do know from watching Star Streams that he loves that ship. He rock mines out of it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and he constantly is filling it up with Aphorite or Hadanite when he's out there
Yep.
mining. So it does have a good amount of cargo space. But the one thing that people don't talk about on that thing is its size. It's got good health. It's got a decent shield, or 2 shields, or whatever it's got on it. But the one thing that nobody ever looks at that for is the amount of guns that are on it. If you can load that up with 2-3 guys, same thing. If we see that thing exiting an area or is down there rock mining and it's starting to lift off, and I scan it and I see, oh, there's Hadanite in there, there's Delavine in there, oh, there's a pilot and 4 gunners. Yeah, I think I might turn the other way, because that's, once again, that's a fight. That's a big fight coming your way if you decide to pick on that target. That is a really big fight. It's very different when you're bounty hunting NPCs and there's a Valkyrie and you're able to shoot it down pretty easily. It's an NPC. But you got a human pilot and a couple of gunners on there. That's a totally different beast. It's a very different beast.
Yeah,
You got,
and I mean,
go ahead, Mom.
yeah, no. And herein lies like one of the, one of the things that's like one of the more important things to understand about Star Citizen And that is, you absolutely, based on some of the things we're talking about today, you absolutely can find yourself in a situation where you might get pirated. And, but for the most part, if you kind of listen to what we said today, take it to heart. Listen to when you first log on, using some of these intelligence gathering tools, doing some pre-flight stuff, understanding gear, understanding guns, understanding how to use be quick with your med pen, be quick with your med gun, learn how to use the tools that you have to save your life. All those things are important, but there is really, I just want to make this one point. There's no safer thing than having friends in Star Citizen. Point blank. There's nothing you can do like solo that cannot be exponentially better with having one buddy along with you.
One thing I would like to say about your med gun, a lot of people don't do this. Make sure you know how to use the advanced features on it. It can save your life, and in a pinch, you can use it to OD somebody that's on your ship. They don't know you're there. You're in a little hidey hole, and they run past you. Come out around there and OD them. It's a whole different fight. Now you've made them the hostage. What's some other things
you can actually quit, and if you get somebody down in your ship, you can loot them fast and put their equipment in your hold. You can move their equipment into your inventory of your ship, so they can't get it back quick. They're nude. They're not in good situation at that point. They're boxers and fists, in a hurry.
So let's. There's a couple of things I wanted to hit too.
Yeah, go ahead, please do.
First of all, don't think that because we're talking pirating that you're going to be in 318 and there's going to, as soon as you leave a station, you're going to be immediately swarmed by pirates every single time you leave. I don't think it's going to be like that.
It's going to be like that either.
It's not going to be that bad. I'm just trying to let you guys know, keep your eyes out, keep your ear to the track.
Yes.
Keep global chat open, as we've said before. Make sure you got some armor, a gun, med pens, med gun, and a tractor beam. Treat those like your American Express. Don't leave home without those things.
I agree that 100%.
You're more people are going to be, if you do get pirated, you're more apt to be soft death and them try to board you. That's going to be that's the new hotness right now. Everybody wants to do boarding. Everybody wants to get in an EVA gunfight. Give them hell, and they're not going to want to stick around, or you're going to be added to the list of, if it's a professional squad like Mongrel Squad, you're going to be added onto the list of people they don't want to mess with because it takes too long, and it's not just like mining players, or industrial players, or cargo haulers. A lot of people look at the efficiency side. Not all of us, but a lot of people look at the efficiency side. The pirates look at it the same way. If they see a single C2 with one person in it, they know that they can get this down in X amount of time, get the money or get the cargo and run and move on to the next target. They don't want to be in a protracted 40-minute fight with you. They don't want to do it. So if you put up that one fight that one time and you make them pay dearly, 2-3 of their guys go down, they're having to now it's turning into a rescue op for themselves. Don't think that just because you lost that time that you lost. They're not going to want to come back and deal with you again. But I wanted to speak upon being boarded, whether it's on the ground or in space. There's a couple of things that you can do before they even get on board that can help you a lot. We made mention of using 2 SCU boxes to block off doors and create choke points and stuff like that, or even using a tractor beam in a box to smack your the would-be pirates in the head with. It will hurt and kill them. There's another thing that a lot of people don't look at, and that's using third person. Third person view is phenomenal, especially in the new patch with people EVAing everywhere. If you hit F4 and you see them coming, you can have a lot of good information coming your way. How many people are coming? What sides are they coming through? How are they breaching? Are they popping open my door on this side? Are they hitting the hangar door, or not the hangar door, the cargo door? Are they hitting the side door? Where are they coming from? And if you scroll in enough, if Star Citizen allows and the camera angles aren't too wonky, you can see everything they're carrying. Do they have LMGs? Do they have shotguns? Do they have grenade launchers? You may not be able to zoom in close enough, but do they have grenades? Do they have multi-tools? You can garner a lot of information in a handful of seconds while they're on their way to you. And the same thing goes on the ground. Let's say you're parked somewhere and you're trying to meet a buddy, transfer cargo, or whatever it is that you're doing, and you see people that are not in your party and they're starting to swarm you. Hit F4. You'll be able to see what they're doing and how they're approaching your ship and what they may have. And just that little tiny bit of information, you could set up a choke point or be sitting in a choke point or sitting in a little hidey hole waiting for them. And as soon as one or two of them go past you, or however many are in their group, start blasting. And like I said, now it's turned into a rescue op for them. And they're not anything that wastes too much of their time, they're not going to want to come back.
Making things messy for the attacker. Don't be an easy target. Don't be soft. That's basically what we're here talking about today. And that's, for I just want to say, Griff, how much I appreciate, guys, and understand. One of the things we're doing today, I just want to, for those who are just joining, the servers aren't incredibly stable today. There's been tons of 30K, so we really wanted to take this opportunity with 318 coming to kind of, from an industrial player standpoint, speak with somebody who more or less piracy about some of the ways that we can make ourselves not easy. And so what Grift is saying, those are very important things. Yeah, that is Marcus. It is Card for sure. So yeah,
Marcus, what's up, man?
He's Scard has joined us today to kind of help our community understand that. And I just want to say, I agree 100%. They're working on a hotfix. Thanks, Ultra. That makes sense to me. But we just decided to take advantage of the fact that the server is not super stable to just kind of do something that I think is going to pay huge dividends. And Grift was very kind enough to share his time with us today. And that's, how can we not be, that easy to get, you know what I mean? What can we do? What are some of the things we can do? And if you go back and listen to this this entire stream, there's tons and tons of different important points that are being made along the way. We don't necessarily have to rehash all those, but definitely that's what this is about. It's about making sure that we as industrial players take the responsibility of understanding the ways that we can potentially mitigate being somebody who's a real easy mark. Somebody who will pirate. Oh, well, that guy's on. He's easy. Let's go grab him. No, you don't have to be that. First of all, there's a lot of anonymity that you can use. Ultimately, I also think that there's a lot of just hard-nosed tactics that you can use to make it difficult. But one of the things I want to do, Grift, while you're here, because we're up, thank you all for joining. We're up, a little bit high in our viewer count. Why don't you go ahead, just so make sure you do post your, Grift makes, content as well. So make sure, Grift, you put in your links if you haven't already.
Yeah, I'll put them in. I'm still amateurish.
I am too. Heavens.
May I make some shout outs?
Please make shout outs. Absolutely, sir.
Okay. So first of all, I got into doing YouTube content kind of by accident. I have a friend that I'm trying to get involved in the Star Citizen. He doesn't have a computer yet. He's been saving up for one. He heard me talking about it all the time. He said, send me some stuff. So I did, but he didn't understand what was going on. So he asked me to stream. And so I did that. And what turned into a stream for one person has now kind of grown from there. There's a gentleman in your chat right now that I found about 4 months ago, 5 months ago. His name's Marcus Wynn. If I did not talk to him, I would not be anywhere near where I am with the content creation that I'm at. So, and Dr. Bailey 88, he's not a Star Citizen guy. He's another streamer that does another type of game and gameplay. Without those two individuals, I would have not have come as far as I have with the content that I've created and the live streams that I've done. Without Marcus Wynn, without Canop, without Dr. Bailey 88. So I want to, while I have this platform, I just want to say thank you to those guys, really and truly. And without you, Space Shorts, I probably would have put this game down 5-6 months ago when I couldn't wear headphones or earbuds or anything like that. Like, it was really rough for that month and a half, 2 months. It was hard to play any video games. I was in constant pain. It was awful. And just watching you, listening to you, and talking in your chats was amazing. It was it was a, I don't want to say it was a lifesaver, but it was definitely it definitely helped me through a rough patch.
You know what? I can appreciate that. And one thing, that we all know is, is life has chapters in it. And sometimes those chapters have, sometimes they're not easy chapters, and so I want to say, Marcus, and, to the people that Scarred have mentioned, thank you guys so much. And one of the things that I will say, I mean, Grifter, you've always come to my channel. You've always been super, first of all, super rational, super even keel. My community has benefited tremendously from your knowledge, and it's a two-way street. I mean, all of us have ups and downs in life. All of us have situations where things don't always go, how we want, and I want to. I know I say it a few times. Hey, Fox, how you doing? Nice to see you there. Chris, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you there.
I think I put that up right, but if it didn't come up right, then just I put up a link. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I put up a link. Yeah. If you guys want to check it out, it's very amateurish. I'm still working at it. As I said, there's a lot of people that have helped me with it along the way. Yep. You can just come to Scarred Citizen at YouTube. I have a few pirate things up there, but when I started getting into this is kind of when things on 317 started winding way, way, way down, and it's just no longer worth trying to pirate people at this point, just because. And I'm not saying this is a bad way to play the game. It's just not my way to play the game. A lot of people are doing the social butterfly thing where they log in and they hang out in a station and they just chat in global chat or with proxies. And like I said, that's cool. That's one way to play the game. It's just not my way to play the game. And if you're trying to pirate people, it's kind of hard to pirate people when they're standing in Everest Harbor, because you can't.
Well, and just speaking to that, I know myself. I've been kind of, and I, good lesson to myself is I've been done with 317 for a little while in my heart. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily, I am so looking forward to 318. I think that there's a lot more to bite onto there. And nothing's been wrong with 317 at all. It's just, it's been there for a long time. So definitely moving on is, I agree 100%. And what, I did want to say, while we're, I will say, just like Grift has got some folks that, Starstreams knows how much I appreciate his time and energy. He's actually put together a little community behind the scenes where I have gotten to talk to Grumpy and, Jack Axton and a few people. I've really, I know what you mean, man. There are some great, good hearts that are in and around this this game, and I, like I said, I've been blessed to also just had some people that have, kind of helped me stay buoyant, during some rocky moments as well. So, kudos to this game and just the type of people that it's. That it does. I know that there's a lot of drama, but I also do know, I honestly believe that there's a lot of really, really good-hearted people in and around this project. And, I do think that it's, I do think that building this bridge, like what we're doing today, making sure that the footings on either side of the gap are nice and solid and that there's a good bridge across, and that we understand, like, hey, how can we not only, with this upcoming event with 318 dropping, but I'm sure you and I can revisit this in say 6 months, and just say, hey,
Sure.
here's what we thought was going to happen. Here's where we're at. And it's not going to be in the exact same place that we think. Dave, thank you so much. Yeah, I got to take a moment. Dave, thank you. That's so kind of you, sir. It keeps us in good coffee over here. We appreciate that. Astro, I really appreciate that. And guys, I really mean it when I say Grift has been so gracious to this community and to anybody who's, one of the reasons why I think he's, done so is you can just hear what type of person he is. He's a good dude, So I think we're in really good. I mean, I really feel blessed with the type of content creators that we have. So, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going over that, but Dave, I can't thank you enough. It's truly a huge contribution to the channel, and that's awesome. I truly appreciate it.
Real quick, if you don't mind,
please let's keep going. Yeah.
I don't have too much long. I got about a half an hour, maybe
No,
40 minutes. I don't know how long you want to go, but there's a couple more things I wanted to hit before we get going. So there's going to be a lot of times where if you get caught out in space or near a planet or a moon, know your not only know the inside of your ship where you can put up a fight. As Marcus said earlier up in the chat, don't get caught without a weapon. I can't stress that enough. 318, I don't care what you're doing, don't get caught without a weapon. Just don't. You don't know what's going to happen out there. Keep one on. Keep at least a sidearm. Keep at least a med pen on you, at the very least. If you're not going to take anything else with you, just take those with you at the very least, please. Secondly, back to what I was saying, not just knowing the inside of your ship and where you can hide, where you can set ambushes and whatnot inside your ship if you get boarded. Know what your ship is capable of. Okay.
Love it.
And I don't mean how fast it can go, how well it maneuvers. Know what you can do in it and what other ships around you can't do. Let's take an A2 or a C2 for example. They fly extremely well in atmo for their size. Extremely well in atmo. Make sure you know that and are aware of it, because there are some ships that people are going to be pirating in that don't do well in atmo. And if you could dip in and out of atmo, you could create distance to be able to hit your quantum, or cause them to, I don't know, even crash into each other. Just know what your ship is capable of doing. Because that's gonna help you out in the long run. As I said, dipping in and out of atmo might create just enough distance between you and that mantis that now they can't chase you, or just enough distance between you and that gladius where they can't get guns on you anymore. Now your shields can recharge. Just little things like that. Another thing I would highly recommend doing. Everybody should know how to do this, at least to somewhat of an extent. Learning how to fly decoupled. Now, let's say you've taken all the precautions and all of that, and let's say you even have 2 turret gunners on your Connie Andromeda. Say they pulled you out. Yes, also, if you can, hire an escort. And let's say you have those 2 turret gunners. Let's say you got your 4 size 5, or excuse me, your 2 size 4s and your 2 size 5s on your Connie. What good is that going to do you if you can't fight with it? What I want to tell you though is with decoupled flight, you could set your throttle to, I forget what the max speed is on a Connie. You can set it to full fast ahead, and while you're going in one beeline direction straight ahead, you can flip that big girl over, and now whatever is chasing you, you got guns on them while you're flying backwards at max speed.
And let me also just state, because I 1000% agree with that, if you put your ship pointed at the sun, and just gun it towards the sun, and then decouple and roll that big boy over. I know it sounds crazy, but the sun, for whatever reason, it's a much more difficult thing to deal with a ship that's in the sun.
318, the sun is even, to me, I don't know about anybody else, but to me, the sun seems very much brighter
It's
in
bright.
318 than it did in 317.
Yep.
And even just doing some AI missions, like beacons. I was doing beacons the other night with Mr. Marcus in your chat here, and anytime they got into the sun, I was losing them very quickly. Um, so just keep that in mind. Um, what else was I gonna say on that? Mm, 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 mm. Oh, here's another thing we didn't go over. When you're flying out in the verse,
Hmm.
stations, you don't have to worry about this. But let's say you're heading down to, I don't know, Loreville to sell, or you're heading down to ArtCorp to sell. Check that little, check your upper right-hand corner. Make sure comms are on. It's not necessarily going to, it's not the end-all be-all, but it's a deterrent. If the comms are on, people are less likely to eat that crime stat. Not always, but just a thing to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on that real quickly, and not to take a lot of it. But if the comms are down, where they should be up, you definitely know something's up. So yeah, that's an excellent point. Continue.
Some quick options to go over, your in-game options. A lot of this is more. I learned most of this from being in. I'm gonna throw another name out there, Jonathan Winters,
Yep.
and his group of guys. I highly recommend that if you don't know how to dogfight or you don't know how to fight in your ship, go check out his channel and some of his videos like mastery, pip evasion, and things like that. It's gonna make you a better pilot if you practice a handful of those tactics.
Yep.
You may not win, but you're gonna make yourself harder to hit. But to piggyback off of what Jonathan Winters did, he came up with a list of options. And one of the ones that really will help you a lot, um, yeah, one of the things that'll help you a lot is in your options, set your emissions HUD display signature values to yes. It will put up in the middle of your screen, and you can see it on V's screen right now, starting from left to right. That's your IR, the middle is your cross section, and the far is your EM. The lower those values are, the harder it is to find you in the game. So lower EM, lower IR, it's harder to see you. Your cross section, you're not really going to be able to do too much about, but make sure that you have those values on. Yeah, it may take up a little bit of your screen, but these will help you a lot, especially if you're trying to avoid people. I'm not going to get into stealth and all of that other stuff because there is ways. People think stealth is broken, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That's a whole big long
Sure.
rabbit hole I don't want to go down. But if you're approaching somewhere and you want it to be very, very stealthy about what you're doing, turn off your ship's shields and weapons. That'll lower both your IR and your EM, and that's about as far as I'll go with that. Set your hotkeys for an unlock, lock, and open close all doors. I'm not saying that this is going to stop everybody from getting in because you can punch doors open, but it gives you that few extra seconds. Or if, let's say, you want to fight back and you got a railgun on you, this has happened to me both on the ground and in the air, where somebody's like, you know what, I'm not being pirated today. They didn't respond to comms, and they slowed down, they stopped, and they opened up the back cargo door of their freelancer. And I get down even with them, and all of a sudden I'm eating a rail gun right to the side of my Sentinel. Makes you rethink what you're doing very quickly. Yeah, don't. When 3, 4, 5 pirates see a railgun come flying out the back door, we start thinking very differently about what we're gonna do and how we're gonna handle it.
Well, it says a lot more about the person that's in that ship. I mean,
Yes.
that's exactly right. I mean, that's a tell, right? If all of a sudden, and I just want to speak to this really quickly because I don't want to take away from what you're, the point that you're trying to make. But yes, it's exactly right. What our main focus here, talking about being, not being a soft target. Boy, there's nothing softer than all of a sudden, the doors come down, and then one of your ships is just ate a railgun. That speaks volumes about the knowledge of the person that you're going to be taking on when you try to board. It immediately changes the perspective. It's like, if you've scanned the ship and there's one guy in the ship, and then you go to board and he's, somebody's kind of just looking at the cockpit and he's still sitting in there. You know what I mean? It's just like, there are little things that, get out of, don't be sitting in the cockpit waiting for the worms to come, fight, have a little fun with it. At that point, you might as well treat it as an opportunity to train yourself. Don't be weak,
Before we go too much further,
sure.
Other than your cargo, or your Quantanium, when you get killed, what are you really losing?
Just your time.
Yeah. Other than your time, everything can be replaced.
Yes.
All your armor can be replaced. All your guns can be replaced. All your ammo can be replaced. Yeah, I know the time sucks.
Yep.
That you spent trying to get all that stuff. I get it. I understand it. That's the biggest complaint. But in reality, other than your cargo, what are you really losing if you die? You're not losing much.
Right.
You're not really losing much. If you put up that good fight and you still get killed, you didn't lose anything that can't be replaced, other than, like I said, other than your cargo or your Quantanium. You're not losing anything that you can't replace. So, and then, as we've said several times, you put up that fight once or twice with an organized pirate group, you're not going to want to come back and mess with that name again.
Vish says you might lose your dignity. No, Vish, I mean, no, that's how you retain. I know you're just kidding or whatever, Dave says I can't get my dignity back. You guys, but no, I mean, that's actually, I think it's a big part of of maintaining your dignity is not being that easy guy, not being an easy target.
Another thing I would highly recommend you do, option wise, I won't get into too much more of this stuff, but keep your velocity indicator on, especially if you're new to flying decoupled. Velocity indicator is going to give you an idea of what direction you're flying in, and it can give you a hand with, not flying the wrong way or whatever. That's a good point, Marcus. That's a very good point. I forgot about that point. Marcus says in chat, if you're being boarded in the Hercules, the elevator is not part of the ship, so it's a good place to hide your crew.
That's interesting and something I didn't know. That's a very good piece of advice.
I totally forgot about that. That's another person had mentioned that to me. I think it was Star-Lord as well, but yeah, I did not. I totally forgot about that and forgot it on my list. Other than the velocity indicator, turning off your G-Safe. People think it's good to have your G-Safe on. Turn your G-Safe off. You can actually pull off crazier maneuvers than you think you can, even in a cargo vessel. If you find yourself blacking out or redding out, you just have to slightly tap the opposite direction you're going, or roll over and go the opposite direction that you're going, and you'll stave off a blackout or a red out. Now that does take a little bit of practice, but when you have G-Safe on, when you start making hard maneuvers, it's gonna slow you down. And most pirate groups or PvPers, they do not have their G-Safe on, so they're going to have that advantage on you. Their ship is not going to slow down, whereas if you have G-Safe on, it's going to for sure slow you down. You start making a crazy turn, it's going to slow you down, whereas they're scooting around you completely to the other side of you and getting your belly or getting your back.
It's a very, very good point, and one that I want to speak to. I will say, hey, everybody, give Star Streams a salute. He's kind of joined the chat. Hey, Streams, how you doing? Your name has come up once or twice in the chat today in a good way, as you can imagine, and we're just today just give you just a quick insight. We've been chatting about how to not necessarily be an easy target as an industrial player, and Grift has been very kind with this time with today. Scarred Citizen has been very, very gracious with his time, and that's kind of what we've been theory crafting about. Marcus says most pirate crews are not good at dogfighting. there's a truth. If you're heavily focused on kind of, locking a ship down and those types of things, that's a whole different element to it. But I agree 100% with what Grift is saying. As industrial players, taking some time to learn how to fly decoupled with the safeties off is very, very important thing to do. Just like you're saying, you can pull off much more aggressive things. You can kind of learn the limits of your ship. You potentially can get yourself, once again, we're not necessarily talking about winning these confrontations, but what we are talking about is making it more difficult, making it so the next time they come after you, they're like, oh, geez, that guy. Remember the last time he flew for 20 minutes and then he railgunned two of us, and then, it was fun, but it wasn't really profitable going after that person, because by the time we finally pinned it all down, we were an hour and 13 minutes into it, and and other people showed up. You know what I mean?
I want to go to what Marcus said.
Please.
I'd say a good 90% of the pirate groups out there, they cannot dogfight. They could not dogfight to save their life. They might have one or two guys that can dogfight.
Sure.
Which goes back to saying that if you have a group of escorts with you, I'm not saying all, but if they're willing to jump in and escort, they more than likely are average to decent dogfighters, which I will say is more than likely better than most of the pirate groups you're going to run across. They cannot dogfight. They just can't. Holding down a ship versus dogfighting light, medium, and heavy fighters is a totally different skill set than it is to actually dogfight against somebody. It's two wildly different skill sets. I'm not taking anything away from any pirate group out there that can't dogfight, because there's pirate groups that know more than I do as far as, once again, this all changes with 318, but there's pirate groups that will know exactly how many EMPs it takes to turn off a certain ship, how long that ship will be off for, and how long they have to get on board, and how to get on board, and where to get on board. I don't have all that knowledge like they do. I have a very broad and general knowledge of what I do and how I do it. I particularly like being on the ground more than I do in the air, which I'll tell a very quick and funny story. I thought one day, hey, you know what will be fun? None of my buddies are online. I know there's a bunch of people on Aberdeen and Ariel right now rock mining because I see it up in chat. I am going to go and try to get a couple of these rock miners with their pants down. The very first guy I came on, I hit my proxy. He was in his rock. He was actually in his rock, but away from his ship. And I said, hey, 50K, and I let you go. This guy stepped out of his rock and started shooting a railgun at me. And I said, yep, nope, I'm out. Nope, I'm not even dealing with this. He didn't hit me, thank gosh. But I said, I'm not dealing. Nope, I'm not even going to deal with that guy. I turned around and I went and I found somebody else.
It's because you weren't. It wasn't going to be easy.
No, it's not easy. Once it's not easy, people don't want to do it. They don't want to mess with you. But yeah, Marcus also brought up a good thing. Service beacons are a good way to practice decoupled flight. You can do it in free flight, hanging out around the space station and just going around and around and doing different things. Practice it. Just practice it.
Yeah.
Plus, if you get good at it, I'm sorry to say, I've seen it and it looks fun as hell. Low flying or hard flying, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
A C2, 100 meters off the deck, going 400 meters a second and dipping and diving in and out of canyons. There's not many people that can do it. So if you eventually get that good, kudos to you, man.
Practicing your piloting skills, I couldn't agree with more. Mike, to speak to what you're talking about, this is normally just an industrial podcast. Grift has been somebody who has very graciously come on and offered a perspective so we could have a conversation about how, as industrial players, what are some of the things that we can do to not make ourselves easy targets. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, Griff doesn't hide the fact that he is 100% a pirate. And we're having a conversation today, industrial player to pirate, about what are some of the things that we can do to make ourselves not easy, when pirates are about, so as you go back, if you want to listen, there's lots and lots of tips and tricks about that. And so kind of, I know, respecting your time, Griff, because I know that you said you only had a little bit more. Number one, I want to give you any time and space to speak to anything else that, that is important to you. And number two, I do want us to do a good summary at the end of kind of, what we spoke about, as well. So I don't know. Let me just kind of clear the floor. And if you have anything else that you, anything else that you want to kind of, kind of weave in here.
I'd like to talk to Mike here in your chat. I'm not going to be rude, but
I'm not worried.
We are not griefers. We're not murder hobos. We are not amateur runners. We don't. What really it irks me, and probably just the same amount as it does with like Mongrel Squad and Chaos Squad and all those other guys. It really, really irks me that we get told that we're not players, or we're not playing a game loop, or we're just picking on people to pick on people. Most of the guys this is towards chat and everybody else. Have any of you guys run bunkers or run bounty hunting missions?
Sure.
Okay. How often do you find yourself going, this is absolutely boring because the AI is trash?
Every time the AI is trash.
Mm-hmm. So there's no challenge in it. Now, like I said, when I first started, I wanted to be left alone. I didn't want people to mess with me, this, that, and the other. And once I found out that that some of these players provide a really good challenge, that's when a lot of things started changing for me. It's so, like, a lot of my friends are not playing right now because they're waiting for 318 to come out.
Sure.
I thought to myself, hey, you know what? I'm going to run bunkers. I'm going to do bounty hunting. I'm going to do all this stuff. And then when guys like, Marcus has me on a lot, so I thank you for that. This is why I don't. It gets so empty. Like, now that I've forced player interaction a handful of times, it just is. It's so empty going against these AIs that you can literally drop a grenade right next to them. It goes off. It doesn't kill them. They get back up, and they don't even look in your direction. And when I force player interactions, I have people on my friends list that I have pirated, and I made friends with them because me and them had a good fight, and we're both going at the end, hey, good fight. I may have lost, but great fight, great fight. Can I add you? Maybe I can learn what you do someday. Yeah, let's do it. Let's be friends. Let's hang out. Let's do this. I'm not in it to make your day a bad day.
Sure.
If I can force some player interaction, you get a little bit of nerves in the sweat, and I get to get a little bit of nerves in the sweat, and everybody comes out okay in the end. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Well, and it's important. I mean, there's such a negative connotation sometimes that gets associated between like what you and I have discussed today. And I do want to say, I just want to say, I thank you to, I know, hey, Mike said, hey, this isn't my style. That's okay, Mike. And I want to just say, hey, man, if it's not for you, it's not for you. And I just want to say just really quickly to those who are in chat, thank you for being respectful of Mike's opinion. Anybody who comes here, if this isn't for them, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, we don't necessarily, not everything that is said or, there's sometimes different styles, different personalities, different people feel differently about things. So I just wanted to say extra thanks to the chat for not, and you guys are usually really good-hearted folks in my community anyways. But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that none of you kind of jumped on Mike besides just saying, hey, have a good day, if he doesn't feel that, that this is a good place for him, that's okay. But I will say, as somebody who's you're not going to find somebody. If you go back and look, I am 100% industrial focused. I am a 100% invested in industrial gameplay. When I buy like a 100 series, I'm buying the 135C. If I'm buying a 300 series, like I'm buying the 315P with the tractor beam on it. If I'm buying a Constellation, I'm buying the Taurus. That's me. That's who I am as a player. You guys know that about me. And let me also state that, I've had some trepidation about piracy as well. But how we're not going to solve these problems is by isolating each other, by kind of, being, allowing the slogans on either side to define the conversation. It's not necessary. These types of conversations about how, we can take the responsibility as industrial players to not necessarily become soft targets. And for, Grifter said some important things. Like he just said earlier, he's like, man, if I hit a guy, and then a couple days, he was cool. A couple days later, I catch that guy with his pants down again. I'm probably just not going to hit him again. You know what I mean? Like there is no rules. There is no chivalry in any of this or whatever, but you can be good humans to each other. Listen, industrial gameplay and piracy gameplay can find a way to build a bridge where we can coexist. Where, yes, there's enough times where you can sneak off by yourself and do the thing that you want to do, as well as have PvP and have that excited moment. Because I'll tell you, some of my favorite gameplay is, kind of in a mole or whatever. But one of my most favorite times that I've ever played Star Citizen is when I went to Jumptown and I ended up stealing this guy's Cuddy Black there and like flying around, and I used his Cuddy Black to blow up their other guy who was like in the sky. Like it was my heart was pumping. It was one of my favorite times in Star Citizen. It was a PvP thing, and I don't PvP at all. But it was just, so I think we have to, I appreciate Grift. Grift has been so great. He has not come out and said, hey, get good. That's not, if you guys have listened intently, Grift has not one time said get good. He's given you the very specific ways that you can become a better pilot, a more hardened target, somebody who's, more difficult to deal with. And I think this has been a fabulous conversation.
I'd like to speak on something real quick that
sure, please.
I Am Dave said. He said, I find PvP games, if you are a good sport, most people attacking are cool, and I've had people drop gear for me because I don't cry and insult them. Look, the one thing that I really disapprove of on both sides of this line here, or this fence, or whatever you want to call
sure.
it, the one thing I really dislike is when pirates are yelling at the industrial players to either, like you said, get good, or I'm trying to think of some of the other things they say. They call everybody space dads or Care Bears and things like that. And then
right.
You got on the other side the industrial players yelling and screaming, oh, they're griefers, they're murder hobos, or this, or that, the other. We don't solve anything by doing this.
No.
And I will never tell somebody, whether they come to my channel, your channel, anybody else's channel, I'm not going to tell them straight out, get good. It solves nothing. Can I tell you, hey, go look for training, go find a different way to approach these things? Yes, I can.
Yep.
But it does nobody any good to just yell, get good. Once again, I'm not going to name names, but there was a channel that I used to watch, and I watched him get on somebody else's channel and review one of their videos, and the guy said something along the lines of, I'm not good at PvP, I don't engage in PvP, and I don't want to engage in PvP. And the other person that was watching, reacting to it, screamed, well, if you don't want this to happen, then you need to effing get good or quit playing the game. I will never say that to anybody. This game should be for anybody and everybody. And if you don't want to PvP, that's fine. Don't PvP. If you don't want to mine, don't mine. If you don't want to cargo haul, don't cargo haul. There's plenty of other things in the verse to do. But screaming effing get good at somebody, or screaming effing get training, does not help anything. If anything, it divides the gap between the PvPers and the PvEers, or the industrial, or whatever, however you want to divide us up.
Yes.
It does not help the conversation.
Well,
I don't appreciate either side doing it.
no, it's exactly right. And I mean, just as much as, and I mean, we see this, there's definitely there's a gap there. There are definitely industrial players who are just like, these guys are, all they want to do is hurt people, grief, that. And then there's the get good guys on the other side. And there's so much more to the conversation than that. And a lot of it, like, and I just mean this, and I will just keep stating it to my industrial friends. Every time you get pirated, there's an opportunity to learn. Every time there are game mechanics that are available to you that can help you become more anonymous, that can help you become a much more difficult person to deal with at that level. And yeah, I mean, let's just work together as much as we can to understand those things. It isn't necessarily about get good, but there is a onus, there is a responsibility. You can't just kind of jump in Star Citizen and don't know how to fly your ship very well and just kind of lazily. It isn't going to be the type of game where you can lazily go around and just kind of, and not necessarily always never run into trouble. And I don't want, none of us should really want that either. Yeah, I mean, good point, Jonathan. If you're not smart, you better be tough, But yes, Chris, you're making an excellent point as well. Watching pirate content will make you smarter about what tactics they use and how to avoid them. I agree. Embracing the issue, not trying to sloganize it and push it away or drive it out of the game. None of those things are going to happen. So we need to learn to build these bridges and communicate. And, at whatever level to serve that. I know I want to be respectful of your time, and I do want to kind of have a little bit of, kind of a summary of the types of things we talked about whenever you're ready to get into that side of things.
And just remember, guys, everything's going to be, once again, if you come to my channel, you'll hear that I will praise CIG when they do good, but when they don't, I kind of rag on them a little bit. All of this stuff is going to change. Stanton is not going to be the only system.
Right.
Gameplay is going to evolve and expand. And we do know that it's going to start moving towards more of a multi-crew or group gameplay type aspect. I'm not saying that there's not going to be room for solo players. There will be, but this is definitely moving towards multi-crew group gameplay and less away from the solo experience. Will there still be solo ships and solo things to do? Yes, there will be.
Absolutely.
But it's definitely going in that direction. So before we do our little summary, I'd like to go over again just how important it is. Make some friends. Get involved in either a Discord or an organization or whatever. Even if they're not very active, just get involved with a group of friends. Play with a group of friends. And enjoy the game. As much as we've been talking about pirate versus industrial player,
sure,
or anything like that, enjoy this game now, because you don't know if 3 or 4 years from now that this game is going to change so much that we're going to be looking back going, wow, remember the good old days of Alpha 318 and we could just do whatever we wanted?
Yeah.
Enjoy what we have now. I'm going to keep shouting out Marcus because he's been a really big influence on me. He says it all the time. This is the game we have now. Enjoy the game that we have right now. Don't focus on what's coming on the future. Focus on what we have now. It's what we have now, minus the 30Ks and the crashes and stuff like that. What we have now is one of the most fantastic games. I'll say this. It's one of the most fantastic games I've ever played. And I will continue to enjoy it until I can't enjoy it anymore. And that's all I have to say. Just have fun with what we have now. Don't worry about being pirated. It's probably never going to happen to you, or it might happen once in a year. 318, just be a little bit more careful when you leave. And I'll turn it back over to you, V, and we can do this little summary.
No, first of all, I can't agree more with what you're saying. I think that a lot of times it's really easy to get caught up in the negative. But yes, absolutely. If you're not having fun in this game, change what you're doing. Find friends. I can't agree more. I mean, this game, and you and I were people who started just as people who just wanted to kind of play by ourselves, but understand the exponential level of fun. There is no, you will have such an amazing time if you find a few like-minded souls in this game who just want to have the type of fun that you want to have. And it doesn't have to be defined by what we say here by any stretch of the imagination. But, you know, find the like-minded souls in the game. It might be racers. It might be rock miners. It might be somebody who just is interested in kind of going around and being a newscaster. You know, whatever it is that you want to do, find that niche. Like, I can't help it. I love Quantanium mining. Like, I literally, it like makes it's cathartic. It's something I enjoy doing. And so that's what I do. I focus on that a lot. I'm teaching you guys how to do it. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. You know, live today. You know, don't get so swept up in the tomorrows, or how things might be bad. You know, try and, right. I think it's a better thing to do in life to just in general to try and be as glass as half full. And trust me, I get swept away in it too. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of sometimes definitely, going down, like especially with with some of those things. Hey, Mabutu. So, and hey, you guys. So yeah, let's do that. I'm kind of landing my ship as we speak, but we're gonna go ahead here. We've had Grifter on today. And Grift has been very kind. Scarred Citizen is a.k.a. Has been very kind with his time today. What we've done today is we've discussed, kind of the industrial versus the piracy player. What are some of the, from a piracy player standpoint, what are some of the things we can do as industrial players to make ourselves more difficult targets to deal with? And so, I'm just going to land my ship if you just give me a sec here, and then we're going to go through a quick summary of some of the things that we've talked about. And then, depending on how much time Grift has at that point, maybe a little bit of Q&A. If anybody has any other questions, we can get answered real quick. But yeah, I mean, he's been very, very gracious with this time. So
while you're landing, I'm going to run to the bathroom. My coffee shot through me, so I got to go hit that real quick.
Go do that. So yeah, Ramoyne, hey, how you doing, Ramoyne? Earning pieces. I've given training to some people so they can do better. Yeah, that's exactly right. Doing some training, learning is the best thing we can do is help each other, make those connections. I agree more. I try to make friends. I end up picking up more escorts. Nate, I see what you're doing there, Nate. Mabutu, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. How have you been? And evolving your playstyle is necessary as an alpha evolves. Exactly. I agree with that 100% as well. And so, yeah, this has been a wonderful conversation today. I played this game solo, says Jonathan, for 2 years, joined your group 6 months ago, a whole new and better experience. Jonathan, that's been my experience too. And this isn't to knock anybody who's just got maybe you've got a family or you just, whatever. It's just your lifestyle, your play style is solo. Understand, I get it, okay? I'm somebody who did that for 4 or 5 or 6 months myself in this game. But just understand that there are people that are out there that are willing to accept you at whatever commitment level that you have and just kind of, enjoy Star Citizen. And don't be afraid to there's nothing better than friends in this game. In like-minded people, so, thanks for a little bit of a deflection there as I was I wanted to kind of get down here and landed. So we've talked about, I just want to kind of go back and summarize, and I know Grift is going to come back from the bathroom and kind of jump in. I'm here. Yeah, awesome. Welcome back. Some of the things we're just going to talk about, we talked about, and I'm going to kind of, from the moment you log in, you can begin collecting data, right? You can don't necessarily turn off the global chat. Pay attention to global chat. That's an important thing. Take 4 or 5 minutes to watch global chat and see if some people are salty on there. You might get some insight. While you're in your station, use your ears, listen. You can hear your station. You can hear the guns going off at the station. If it's fighting somebody out there, that there's some activity going out there. Don't be afraid to engage in global chat and say, hey, how's everybody doing out there today? You may not want to give up your anonymity, but it's something you can do. But also understand, before you go get on your ship, make sure that you have armor, gun, at least a sidearm and extra ammo. Make sure that you're very familiar with your med gun, your med pens, your multi-tool. Make sure you have a tractor beam attachment with that. Maybe have a backpack. Make sure you have some food and water. You might want, and some of the more advanced gear would be like a rail gun or grenades or a grenade launcher. Some of these things are important, to have. And each one of these things, as I list them individually, you can take time and learn. Like you had mentioned, Grift had mentioned, don't just, have the med gun. Understand how to use the med gun. The med gun has an advanced option. Make sure you understand the mechanics of the things that you have available to you. Don't just have a sidearm. Go shoot somebody with it at least once or twice. Acclimate yourself with it. Be careful about, understand how to reload. Understand some of these things like that. So as so this is kind of as you log into the station. Your pre-flight is making sure that you have the proper gear. After you do climb up into your ship, go ahead and make sure that you're fully powered up, that your shields are fully committed. That before you open before you open the cargo bay doors, or the hangar doors, make sure that you kind of know where you're going. Maybe pre-spool, that type of thing. Don't necessarily lazy jump from one spot to another. Do some zigzag jumping. There's another, little tip or trick. Kind of
Bouncers some escorts.
Yeah. And listen, there's nothing Grift and I could ever tell you that the most important thing you could ever have is friends in this game. I mean, I will say that over and over again. Having somebody who's an escort, having somebody who's in your turret, not necessarily being alone is always going to be the best, But there are groups and orgs that can't wait to help you and train you and teach you how to do some of these things. So, once you're out there and, paying attention to the global chat, and that type of thing, some of these little things. But as you go back, if you listen to what we spoke about today, there's tons and tons and tons of things, little pieces, learning to fly decouple, for instance. And, and we talked about turning off some of the things that, that stop you. There's our 30K. I was waiting for the 30K. What's going to happen. Learning to turn off G-force, that type of thing. Your G-safes. Learning to disable. Little things like that. Learning how to push your ship to the limit. Understanding some basic dogfighting mechanics. Understanding some basics on combat stuff. Definitely know how to use your med pens. Little things like that, because if you just get, if you get wounded and you just didn't, you had plenty of time and just didn't med pen your way out of it, that's kind of on you. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to, hit some of the major things, kind of some pre-flight, some post-flight stuff, but, going back and listening here, and trying to pick up all the little things that you can do. And without that, I want to open it up to Grift, and then any other questions or, if there's anything else that anybody in the community wants to chat about before we wrap up here.
I really don't have anything to add, but there was something that I was looking through my notes that I totally forgot. Some
Sure.
new veterans may already know this, but let's say you are being chased by pirates, right?
Yes.
And you quantum. What they're going to do is they're going to try to hit their quantums, and they're going to try to look to see what direction you were pointing, and then they're going to make an educated guess as to where you're going. And they're going to try to pop out either before you get there or as you get there. Turn off your quantum mid-jump. Choose a new spot.
Love it.
Because they'll follow you there. Another thing that you can do, so if that'll only work in, I don't want to say deep space, but away from bodies, planetary bodies. If you are already circling, let's say you're above Hurston, and you were on your way to, I don't know, let's say you were at the reclamation depository or whatever it's called, and you just broke Atmo, and you're about to fly over to one of the mining pads to, I don't know, repair, rearm, get more flares, whatever you're doing on your ship. Let's say a pirate picks you up there, and you jump, and you're around a planet or you're around a moon. You can't just hit B or whatever hotkey you have for your quantum to turn off your quantum. It will not work. You have to turn off your ship. But if, once again, let's say you're being chased around a planet like that, pick a spot, you jump, hit you, and it'll pull you out of quantum, and then choose a new, hit you again to fire up all your stuff again, and then pick a new spot to jump to. They're going to try to follow you to that spot. And if you do that mid-jump, you're going to confuse them, and they're not going to know which way you went after that. I just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, I
right
love
quick.
it. It's that kind of stuff. It's learning how the mechanics work when you're doing quantum stuff. It's learning how the mechanics work on your ship. Those little things like running from a gator, zigzag, exactly like Jonathan's saying. Those little things are going to be the difference between you getting away or not getting away. You know what I mean? Those are such important pieces of understanding. Obviously, if we're in the kitchen and we're making ourselves a ham sandwich or whatever, we're hit. It's whatever. But if you're at the helm, you might as well learn to do the things at the helm that are gonna make it so you're a lot more difficult to deal with. And that's an excellent tip. If you are doing a planet side quantum, definitely learning that you can toggle your power off. Let's say you're on one side of the planet, but you did spool and you're jumping to the other side of the planet. It's true. If you kill the quantum drive, it's still, because it's a planet side quantum, it's still going to continue towards that target. But if you hit it's going to shut the power of the ship off. You can the person will over jump you, and then you can hit you and choose a different spot, and then you can get yourself free. Little things just like that, little tips and tricks just like that. Will make it so you're just more difficult, more hardened to deal with. So, last thing I want to say is, you guys, the server has been PTU servers in kind of not a great place today. That's one of the reasons why we decided to do something a little different today. This has been so much fun. I really enjoyed your time today, Grift.
Well, thank you.
And I just want to say point blank how much, just me to you, man, how much I've appreciated you being willing to come talk to my community, and come talk to the community, I should say. It's not my community, but the community in general about these topics, and also keeping it on the up and up, man, keeping it 100, where people can just say, the last thing I want to say is, if you want to learn anything about mining, come talk to me. I'm happy to help. I don't want to speak for Grift, but I'm sure if you had questions, about anything in the game, I'm sure, I'm getting a sense that he probably is willing to give you a hand with it.
Real quick.
Sure.
It's hard for me to not gush, because like I said, I found you I started June 4th-ish, about June 4th-ish. I had my surgery the second or third week of July. I found you right around then. I am a huge fan.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
sorry. I'm a huge fan. I love coming to your streams. I love the what do you call it, Quantanium and coffee. I love those streams. I love coming and hanging out. You have a great community. I love the information you throw out for mining. And like I said, I'm not the greatest miner in Star Citizen, but I've learned so much watching guys like yourself and Star Streams do rock mining and Quantanium mining.
Absolutely.
And without you guys, I probably would have stepped away from this game and never have come back. Because like I said, I could not wear headphones, earbuds, anything like that for almost 2 months. And being able to mine deaf it takes away the nuance of the game, like the sounds and all of that stuff, but at least I could do something, and it was fun. And I got to learn a whole different aspect of this game other than just flying my ship around and shooting other ships down. And I'm not saying at that time it wasn't even players, it was just AI, but you've taught me a ton about this game, and I absolutely, like I said, I absolutely adore all your stuff and everything that you do. And I'm always waiting for the weekend to hit, because I know there's going to be a Space Shorts stream.
Yeah, hopefully. Definitely. It's first of all, those are ultra kind words. I can't thank you enough. That's truly. I mean, if I can say, if I ever set out to do anything when it comes to streaming or just kind of being a part of a community, this is it, right? This is the really the best part of it. It's being able to take some time and share some time and so everybody who's joined today, thank you so much. The people that have helped Grift along the way, have helped Scarred become who he is today, how thank you so much. And like I said, the people who have made me a lot better human being, and a lot better. Like I will say many times, Star Streams, if you're still listening, you know how I'm very, very, very fond of how welcoming you've been to me. And of course, we're really blessed in this community to have some really awesome content creators. And so, anyways, guys, let's give, if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to start them. Let's go ahead and let's give a Grift a salute. If you wouldn't mind giving Grift a salute in here. He is.
Thanks, guy.
Yeah, man, very, very gracious Grift. I don't know, one more time if you wanna. He's the most famous not murderer. Just want to say thank you for joining me today. This has been worked out far better. I mean, obviously I thought it would go well, but it's far better than I ever dreamed it would. And I really appreciate your time, truly.
Thank you. I don't know how much longer you want to go, but if you wanted to do like a quick 10-15 minute Q&A, I'm down. I'm for sure down. I know you asked me prior to the stream, you wanted to know my PC rig specs. Is that?
I forgot. Yeah, let's talk about your rig real quick. Let's do it.
Okay, so my rig is it's a pre-built. I didn't want to go pre-build. I wanted to build it myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a PC die on me right at the tail end of the bit mining craze of last year, 2022. So it was like February of 2022. My other PC just died.
Gotcha.
Like the RAM went, the motherboard went. It was awful. So I am running I got a 1 terabyte SSD with a AMD 5700G and a EVGA 3060 Ti.
Nice.
And I'm running 32 gigs of RAM at the moment. I do plan on expanding on both the storage and the RAM. I knew videos took up a lot of room. I just didn't know it took up that much room.
I hear you. I definitely, I had never opened up like Wondershare or DaVinci or Premiere or even Photoshop or any of those programs, even OBS I'd never messed with before I started streaming. And you do, it is funny, you kind of learn along the way, all the little different things that the little requirements and absolutely, spaces, you'd be surprised when you go to render video how big they get, how fast.
They get massive very fast. And then like one of my first goes at it was somebody was like, hey, make sure you hit record when you're streaming. And I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem. And then I come off of it and I go, oh wow, 4.5 hour stream. Oh my god, it took up that much. Oh my god, I better get rid of this quick.
That can definitely happen. I'm actually hoping this year maybe to get over to the 2 system stream and
very nice.
Making some of those transitions to like 4K and that kind of stuff. Just recently built a newer rig for 4K stuff, but I'm not quite there yet. I got a little bit of time in life before I can build the studio here at the house and monkey around with a little more. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's those little things.
Speaking of screens, I have I think it's an AOC 28 inch 1080i with the half a millisecond delay on it.
Yep.
I wasn't really, when I got this, I wasn't like, oh, Star Citizen. I didn't even know Star Citizen. Well, I knew it existed, but I didn't know I was going to get hooked into it. But if I could go back and redo it, I think I would have boosted up to at least a 1440.
But you have a very solid 1080p rig. That's a very, 3060 Ti. I think you said a 5700. That's a very solid, 1980, a 1080p rig. Yeah. That's a very And a lot of, a lot of people don't necessarily, you always kind of build around whatever resolution you're gonna, It took me a little while to understand that, but it's just one of those things. I have a 1080p rig for sure. And I actually have recently changed that 1080p rig around to where it can do shorts really quickly. More the 1080 by 1920. And then I have a 1440p rig. And like I said, I'm working on the 4K rig now. So I definitely know, I definitely understand where you're coming at, of like wanting to build them versus kind of building a pre-built. I know exactly what you mean. I've been down that road myself, and that being said, I do want to say to everybody else, does anybody have any? Hey, Ninja, nice to see you. How you doing? Ninja, yeah, he's got a heck of a system, by the way. I just get the best. That's funny, Ninja. Does anybody have any questions at all? I know that we talked about Q&A a little bit.
Um,
We'll open up the floor a little bit.
Yeah, I'll answer just about anything. Just about anything. I don't want to say anything because then some weird questions come in.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things. While we were here, if anybody had anything, any itches, anything that they want, what is that like? Reasonably held grievances.
Yeah.
Anything we're open to chat about real quick. I just want to make sure we get all of your questions answered, if there are any, and we're happy to do it. And if not, you know what? I just, once again, thank you so much for your time. Is a dry sponge a happy sponge? Yeah, I don't know. It's a little crusty.
Yeah, that's a good question, but I'm not sure on that one. No, I honestly, you keep saying thank you. I want to say thank you. Like I said, it's been hard not to gush because, like I said, I listen to you whenever you're on. I'm trying to get in there and take in either information or just get involved in your chat because I see a lot of people, not a lot, I see a few people every once in a while pop in your chat, whether they're new or have been there for a while, and get concerned about pirating and whatnot. And I just wanted to kind of calm some fears today. That's the whole reason why I did the list. I just wanted to calm some fears into, it's not as bad as you think it is.
It's not as bad as you think it is. Well, this is lightning round. What's your favorite coffee?
My favorite coffee is I have 4 children and a wife, so I don't get a very big budget. So my favorite coffee is the store brand coffee that comes in the really big containers that you get for like $6. And then I just put I spend my money on the creamer. I know a lot of people like take their coffee black and whatnot, especially on your channel. My grandma, God bless her soul, she used to make fun of me and say, "Do you just want me to go and get a bowl of ice cream and throw it in the microwave for you?"
Yeah. That's
so that
two-fisted, right? I mean, both cream and sugar, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's awesome. What is your favorite ship for Pirate Ops? As Jonathan's asking.
Ooh.
There's a.
Ooh. It depends on what we're doing. And sometimes the group of 5, 6, 7 of us that I pedal around with, I mean, we can't really hit the big C2s and caterpillars and stuff like that, just because of the way 317.5 is set up. You need a lot of EMP and a lot of you need a lot of timing for that. So a lot of the times we're running stuff like Avenger Warlocks, the Sentinel, the Hawk, and then there's usually we usually have a guy waiting in the wings in case they do have stuff on their ship that we can get off or get off of their body or bodies. But yeah, definitely kind of the standard tried and true. I myself, I love the Sentinel. It's one of my favorite heavies. I won't get into that, but I haven't pledged for a Scorpius, and so I think the next best group of ships, if you can't afford a pledge for a Scorpius, is definitely a Vanguard Warden or a Vanguard Sentinel. Fantastic ships.
I will agree with that 100%. The Vanguards are super durable. I mean, they're just a durable ship. I've definitely had really good luck with them. Let's see. I want to see a Pirate Council disaster and like Pirates of Caribbean.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I think that would be a really cool thing to do. I don't. Just one thing about me and my group of friends, we don't have like that the ones that strictly pirate. We don't have an org, and we don't really have a hierarchy. We're just kind of a group of guys that like to do what we do,
right.
And we all make it's not like, I don't want to say it's like a democracy, but I mean, if somebody sees something that we're not catching, they'll throw it out there and be like, "Hey guys, let's do this," or "Hey guys, you missed this, let's do that." Or "Hey, he's doing this, make sure you do that." It's not so much like a there's one person in charge and he calls all the shots. It's not anything like that. And we're, like I said, we're small. We're only like 3, 4, 5, 6 group guys in. And I just started hanging out with Marcus a lot too, and uh, Marcus is good people.
So are distortions the new meta?
No, no, they're not.
No, that's
There's no point. There's looking at it from a pirate perspective. There's no point in shutting your ship down. I'd rather just go in, soft death you, and then board your ship and take what I want.
I don't disagree with that. I think that the soft death is a good enough chance, right? To kind of get that person over their skis a little bit.
And the reason why I say distortions are not the new meta, and this is, I mean, you can use distortions or EMPs however you want to use it as, but from strictly the pirating side of it, they run hot. They can actually start shutting down ship components if you don't have the right coolers in. And then on top of that, distortions, and thanks to Marcus for pointing this out on one of his streams, the distortions run your IR and your EMs off the charts. So let's say there's only 2 or 3 people trying to pirate your freelancer or your freelancer max or whatever. If they turn around and start firing missiles at you, with EMs already being an absolute pain in the butt to flare off in 318, now you add in your IR is sitting at 35K, your EM's sitting at 38 to 44K. I think I saw it go up on Marcus's video. It's not, in my opinion, it's not worth it. I'm going to have to drop 8, 9 flares just to get rid of that one missile. And that's another tip. Don't fire off a full volley of missiles at somebody. Do it one missile at a time, because they're going to have to drop all their flares, especially in 318. If they're running EMs, distortions, a quantum dampener, it's going to take 8, 9, 10 flares just to flare off one size 1, size 2 missile. So they'll run out of flares really quick.
And I'll just say, I remember, in our org, I think we mapped all of our countermeasures to kind of one button.
Yeah,
because it's difficult to, like, what kind of countermeasure do I need? So, if you map them all to one, you're getting rid of, your different types of countermeasures potentially just with one button click. So, that's that whole kind of exhausting the countermeasures thing. It's a very good tip.
Yep.
Couple of other questions, I think, before we jump out of here. One of them was, I guess somebody said, hey, let's talk about loadout a little bit. As far as, is there something like on that Sentinel that you're definitely not leaving off the Sentinel? When maybe it's those, I know they have those, the Vanguards have those specialized, nose cannons, or is there some piece of kit that's just essential? Like you always are going to have this when you go?
I've played around with them a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's once again, with soft death being a thing, distortions just they're not worth it.
Right.
I will so what I usually run on a Vanguard is I'll either run the size 5 ballistic on there, or I'll run the size 4 repeater on there. But the size 5 ballistic, if I get your shields down, and a lot of ships specifically have a lot of their components in the belly. If I can get to your belly and I rake you with half a mag, well, not really a mag, but I rake you for a half a second to a second with a size 5 ballistic, I'm going to be hitting a lot of your components and they're going to be done.
Yeah, and once the power goes out, you're in big trouble.
Mm-hmm. Other than that, I usually just run the specialized size 2 repeaters.
Nice.
If I'm doing PvE stuff, I'll switch those to like cannons and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, I love the Sentinel. I like the Sentinel more than the Warden because it's more maneuverable. I don't even really use the EMP on it. I just take it because it's more maneuverable. That's the only reason why I take the Sentinel over the Warden.
Yeah.
And if you guys ever look at those ships, there's 4 Vanguards in that series. There's
Yep.
the Sentinel, the Warden, the Harbinger, however you want to
Yep.
say it, and the Hoplite.
Yep.
The Warden comes stock with all military components, size C and B, I want to say. The Sentinel comes stock with all size military grade C. The Harbinger, don't waste your 2.2 million on it. It flies worse than a Nova tank, and the torpedoes just don't do enough damage to warrant you having it. It pretty much can only one-shot ships its size and smaller, so just don't even bother. And the Hoplite, it's great if you have a bunch of people that you need to hop drop in or out of a target zone. But
yeah, it was our.
Sentinel,
We did a lot of dropship testing, and the Hoplite was very much slept on. I think that's actually a very good dropship because it's got kind of the Warden size and toughness and flight characteristics, and you can definitely put men down. You can get Marines on the ground in a hurry with that thing. We talked about that a little bit, like the Valkyrie and that stuff. But I agree. The Warden, that whole series, the Sentinel, the Warden, the Hoplite, and the Harbinger they're all great ships. I will say, I think that the Harbinger was more meta, several patches ago, than it is now. But the Sentinel has been a clear, just a very, very rough, very, very solid operator for many patches. Those ships can take a lot of damage. They're maneuverable enough, and they hit hard, So, I couldn't agree more. Last but not least, I wanted to kind of, Clive had an excellent question. I think we spoke to this a little bit. Clive said, "Hey, I'm not good at dogfighting. What can I do to improve?" I want to say one thing before I let you go, Griff. I think the most important thing to do is, just like you come to my channel to learn about Quantanium mining, maybe some tips and tricks along those lines. There are some very, very good dogfighters out there that have, that offer even combat schools and that type of thing. But I think watching them sometimes can be very helpful.
Let me point you in a good direction. If you want to learn, if you're interested in learning, go find Jonathan Winters. The reason why I say this is twofold. Number one, in my opinion, he's one of the best teachers on YouTube, whether it's through video, through his live streams, or he will even take time to do a one-on-one with you if he has the time. Second, he has a very different attitude than most PvPers. He is not a win-win guy. He's a good fight guy. And lastly, the last thing I will say about him is the new flight model that's coming out in a few patches from now. Everything is slowed down. There's a lot of PvPers out there that fight in a very specific style right now, and that's either, you can classify it as 2 different ways. You can call it fighting in the funnel or funnel fighting, and medium range. Once that new flight model kicks in, fighting at those distances are going to be a little bit tougher for you to do. Jonathan Winters very much specializes in 2 types of combat, and that is knife fighting and pip evasion. And I can't get into all of that on here. That's a long rabbit hole. But pip evasion and knife fighting is, in my opinion, what I think people should learn for the future of combat in Star Citizen.
There you go. There's an excellent tip. Not only a specific content creator who, Grift, and other people in the channel agree that, Jonathan Winters' site is, I watch some of Jonathan's stuff. It's great, So, very, very good learning. But also, I think it sounds to me from an attitude standpoint is also, is also a really solid choice. So, so if anybody, final questions, catch you again. Hey, Ramoy, nice to see you. Chris 07 for sure, man. Nice to see everybody. I think we're, with that, I think we'll kind of, call it a day. Last but not least, just once again, thanks for joining me today, Grift. Thanks all, I always say this. One of my favorite things to say is, no Quantanium today, but the conversation was absolutely lights out, fantastic. And you know, and obviously the community, all of you make everything about what's going on here, man. So you know, you guys who come and visit, thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with us, and we'll see you around. How about that,
Thank you
Griff?
very much. Thank you very much for having me on, and thank you for your community for welcoming me, even though I'm a dirty scalawag.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a good time with you and your chat, and as I said, I'm a big fan. I've always looked up to what you do on YouTube, and it's like I said, it's hard not to gush. It's the same thing when a few others have me on their channel or have had me on their channel. It's hard not to gush because I like what they do, and it's very honoring when they have me on. So
I appreciate that for sure, and I know I do the same. I know streams probably doesn't have me around as much because I gush over. I do the same thing, so you know we all have our dudes. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, you really, you know. But no, I appreciate it truly, and you know, guys, please take care of yourself. Everybody that's out there, we will see you all around the verse.